It was muted. Welcome to Murder Church. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's early, getting a little bit of a late start here, by about 10 minutes actually. Wow, unusual, especially when I was early last week. But yeah, I went to bed way too late per usual. It was like 3 in the morning. But yeah, welcome in everybody. Thank you all for being here. Let me adjust this mic just a little bit. It's about right there. What is everybody doing this morning? Thank you all for hanging out. I'm going to roll back up here real quick. Crime Spies, Anna, Tangled Crochet, Dizzy, Denise, Elizabeth, Charlotte, all the way from the UK. She's in the future. Kelly, Gail, good morning. Dizzy, if I did not say that, I think I did maybe. Aspiring court reporter, Say No to Globalism. Love the names also as per usual. Hope 8 Fear, Miss Esk, Emily. Yeah. Thanks guys, everyone for coming and hanging and banging this morning. Shannon L, per usual. Got to have Shannon in here for Murder Church. I am not T-Pain per usual as well. Some of the best comments literally on YouTube from I am T-Pain. And oh man, Megsy, absolute Jeffrey Dahmer MVP every Sunday, comes through with the knowledge and the facts. Also becoming a member here, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, we're going to throw that out early. A little bit of love. Give me the loot. I'm a bad man. Megsy? Welcome to the party, pal. Throw them beers, throw some coffees in the chat. I'll throw you some coffees. I'll throw you a Bloody Mary. I'll throw you a little mimosa. Good morning. And yeah, welcome again to Murder Church. Yeah, gotta have Megsy in here for Murder Church always. Oh, Jay's in here also. Good morning, Jay. Hope you had a good weekend, brother. Yeah, oh man, you know what? That just hit me. You know what just hit me? Oh, dude, yes, right? Huh? Oh, sick. Tomorrow, there's no work. There's no work tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so excited for that, man. You can see the sleep in my face. Like, wow. Yeah, no work tomorrow. Holiday, baby. 3-day weekend. So, yeah, this is pepping me up a little bit just thinking about that. Holy shit. Love it. Donna, good morning. Coming in here as well. Still see some fine folks rolling through here. As you guys do come through, please, please hit the, I'm catching up with it all now. The earliest unknown mute in Murder Church history. Nombre, what's up? Art with Viv. They still rolling through here. Yo, we'll give them a second to get to their pews, ladies and gentlemen. We ain't even hit the bells yet. Everybody's still early. Kathy, good morning. Hey, you're not late. The bells have not rang just yet. This is rocking and rolling, baby. Love it. And yeah, look at all these drinks being poured out early here in church. We get a little lit, little tipsy early in church. Anybody that did not see Friday's special episode of Feral Friday, please go back and check that out with Kerry Rawson. It was absolutely unbelievable. I'm going to be editing some more videos out of that. I think I'm going to try to make a bigger video out of basically her talking about the entire BTK story, which was absolutely insane. Yeah, that if you've not checked that out, please go back and watch that. That was absolutely insane. She laid it all out there on the line, like she does every day, quite frankly. But yeah, good to see everybody. Jamie coming through here. Welcome, brother. Thank you. Yeah, today is week 15. Let me get it over here. In the Jeffrey Dahmer insanity trial that we've been covering. If anyone can believe that, 15 weeks. I can't, quite honestly. Part 7 of Dr. Frederick Fosdal, the psychiatrist that we've all actually kind of become fond of. At least I have, honestly. We started out a little bit rough. He has a little bit of a mouth noise problem. But honestly, I feel bad for the guy. He's been up here endlessly, and you can see that he has a little bit of trouble as well. It actually kind of messes with him. And he's a psychiatrist, but it's still him actually coming up here and saying a lot of these words, mouth jobs, right? Gets the gentleman. So let me just make sure I've got the right thing, because I've got these all messed up. Boom, baby. Only thing I got to do is I got to take that court TV off. Forgot to do that last night. I got to make this just a little bit bigger. Here, folks. Yeah, looks about right. Scooter over just a scooch. And yeah, let me add my little boom. Little Murder Church logo down there. Hi, the court TV nonsense, huh? Go. Oh yeah, folks. Let's rock and roll. Week 15 starts right now.
Be seated, please.
Dr. Fosville, I have about 15 minutes, I think, left. If a person was suffering from a paraphilic disorder and also suffering from a psychosis, such as schizophrenia or some other type of psychosis, including delusional thoughts, and that was present at the time of his paraphilic conduct, might someone like yourself have to reevaluate whether that person was able to conform their conduct to requirements of law?
Reevaluate?
Sir?
Reevaluate?
Or evaluate?
Oh, absolutely. Then the goal there is the same. You try to establish what conditions or disorders the defendant has, and if one is a major form of mental illness like schizophrenia, and the person also has a sexual disorder, the goal is still the same, to try to explain the behavior and perhaps which disorder was most influential in the defendant's behavior. Absolutely. If the excuse me, if the behavior is determined to be very much a reflection of the person's, say, schizophrenic disorder, psychotically motivated, that type of thing, that's a good likelihood that there'd be a basis for non-responsibility.
If a person was suffering from a paraphilic disorder, and at the time that they were engaging in paraphilic conduct, because of that disorder, they were also having delusional thought processes, would someone like yourself look at that?
Wow, I forgot the bells. Can you believe that? Sometimes we get extra bells, sometimes we get no bells. Hold on. Can't have murder church without the fucking bells. I know everybody's in the pews by now. Get the bells a tolling, yeah, this morning, baby.
To determine whether or not that person in that state might have been suffering from said mental disease and might have lacked substantial capacity to conform their conduct to requirements of law.
Yes, that's part of the evaluation process.
A number of times in the course of your many interviews with Jeffrey Dahmer, you asked, wouldn't the best thing have been to have found somebody who would have engaged in consensual sex with you and stayed with you for a period?
How can I forget the bells with Viv here? That's Viv loves the bells. I love the bells. Come on.
Of time. Isn't that what you asked him?
The fucking bells.
You knew when you talked to Jeffrey Dahmer as late as January the 9th that he was never, ever able to achieve any kind of a relationship of that nature. True?
That's my understanding, yes.
Then what was the question being asked for over and over again if you knew the answer that he would have preferred that, but it was never attainable? Why was the question being asked?
To reconfirm his, what I would consider his primary sexual preference and interest and desire, that it's not a primary necrophilic desire, but more of a living adult homosexual partner.
I want to go, I'm sorry, you finished?
Just a follow-up, confirmatory.
Can I go?
Yes.
I want to go to your discussion with Jeffrey Dahmer of January the 9th. Now, it's clear when you were contracted by the district attorney's office that there was a cutoff date of January the 7th as far as writing a written evaluation. Isn't that true?
I thought it was January 10th.
Well-
Originally, it was earlier, then it was changed.
But it was only changed just before the 7th when 3 extra days of grace was given to all parties, correct?
There was a concern about getting reports in, especially, right.
Right. And as a matter of fact, your meeting of January the 9th came as a result of the fact that you had an extra couple of 3 days to finalize what you thought you had to do. Is that true?
Something like that.
You considered your interview of January the 9th with Jeffrey Dahmer, and that had something to do with the report that you filed on January the 10th.
I dictated my report the day before, my first draft, my 3-page report. There was the extension in time, and it was my desire to meet with him again for follow-up purposes. I think because Dr. Dietz being here, he was not available, and so there was some scheduling conflicts. I do recall checking with Mr. McCann on Monday. The reports were due on Friday, and I think the only time available was Thursday. Friday would be water over the dam. By then, the reports were due, and there were some follow-up questions I had, and Thursday was the only time.
That's okay. I want to ask you, when you met with him right at the very beginning of the interview, and if you look at your page 2, which I think would be page 52 of that interview, you told Jeffrey that one of the things here that you went there for is to clear up misunderstandings. Like the point, you said, like the point you just made. The fancy word is necrophilia, or necrophile, I'm sorry. They're my words. The fancy word is necrophile. Has somebody talked to you about that? And he said, yeah, Jerry explained a little bit of it. You understood that to mean me, right?
True.
And then you said to him, at least my understanding, that it implies that these people have to be dead before you can enjoy them. And that was not my understanding. I was concerned you are going to be labeled or branded as a necrophile. And he answered, that's not the best description to be labeled with. Correct?
True.
And then you said, it is my understanding that you engaged in sexual behavior with deceased people, which is one thing, but that does not necessarily mean necrophile, that you needed them dead to enjoy them. You never implied that to me. You hinted that it was done for other reasons, prolongation, availability, and control. You had a non-rejecting kind of situation. And he said, yeah, and that's true. It did seem that after they were completely in my control after strangulation, that it became easier to fulfill my sexual desire, whether that labels me what you just said. Isn't that what he said to you?
True.
And then you said it became easier to get relief or satisfaction after they were dead. And he said, yeah, or at least after they were drugged. And then you said, how would that help? You would get satisfaction to have the person incapacitated. And he said, it gave me a feeling of total control over them. I could take my time and not worry about entertaining them, keeping them satisfied. The issue of having control to be made of them made it more exciting to me. And then as things progressed, I was branching out in the cannibalism aspect, trying to find greater fulfillment and satisfaction, and the taking pictures of the internal organs and the saving the heads. It was just further branching out, trying to get greater satisfaction, stimulation. And then you said kinky kind of things, like a husband and wife trying different things. And he said, yeah, I didn't start doing all these things all at once. It sort of built up. And you said, I see a necrophile has to kill a person before he can enjoy them, and I thought you could enjoy them alive and sedated, and you would rather have them alive. He said, true, and that's why I started that drilling. And you said the killing was not done to bring about their death, That was the sexual thing. There is such a being, but that is not my understanding of you. To you, the death was kind of a means to the end. It was a vehicle by which to prolong the relationship, and he said, that's a good way. That's what it is, right? Because of time constraints, not having a house of my own. It was the only way to make it possible, at least in part. And then you said, do you see the difference? It may be subtle. You're still having sexual contact with deceased people. People are still getting killed, but that's not the reason. You wanted to keep them alive. Speaks against a pure necrophile problem. Necrophilic problem. And you said, yeah, we were. He showed the videotapes. We had to.
Not you said, the defendant said.
The answer then to what you said, you wanted to keep them alive, speaks against a pure necrophilic problem. Mr. Dahmer answered, yeah, we were. He showed the videotapes. We had the TV and VCR here, and we watched The Return of the Jedi with the Emperor character, the Exorcist 3 tape, and he had a lot of electronic equipment brought in. Who's he talking
Jeffrey Dahmer loves The Exorcist 3, for anybody that watched the Netflix show.
about?
Pardon me?
Who was he talking about?
Dr. Dietz.
Okay? And you said, what about the videos? And you said, I was just pointing out to him the main character, Return of the Jedi, that he uses a lot of control and power in the movie, science fiction, good special effects. So you were impressed with the Emperor. Right, that was the main focus. He exuded total control, power over his empire.
This is a psychiatrist, Donna, named Dr. Fosdell.
I could identify with him. I used to watch it before I went to bars to sort
Frederick
of psych myself
Fosdell.
up.
Dr. Frederick Fosdell. He's been up here for a couple of weeks here on Murder Church.
What did you want power over? All aspects of life, financial, social, sexual. Did you want to be king of the world? Yeah. That would have been the ultimate, carrying it to the extreme. That would be nice. At least in my own life, I wanted more power and control. I didn't feel like I had any power. And then, going down a couple, he said, how do we stand on the necrophile issue? And he says, I think how you described it. Do you think you've been consistent on that? What I'm afraid of is that at trial, there's going to be a misunderstanding. We got 3 different formulations going on. Either you are or you're not. The term itself is vague. There are not chapter books and books written about it, but I guess there are some people that this is their thing. He says, I understand. That wouldn't make sense to me to that extent because I was trying to keep them alive during the last period with the drilling. By having them dead, that's the only way I knew how to control them completely at the time. You could have had a very compatible cooperative partner. Wouldn't that have been good enough? It would have, but I never did run into anybody who was willing to be permanently cooperative. Was it the control?
Permanently cooperative. Who the fuck is going to be permanently cooperative? No one. No one, bud.
Was that exciting for you, or did it just make things easier? No, it was exciting having complete dominance. Did their being dead, did that spoil the sexual experience at all? No, it didn't until I had to do the dismembering and everything. Did it matter much to your enjoyment of the guy that he was deceased? No, because at that point I had complete control, and that heightened the excitement. It was more exciting than with a live person, yeah, but if he had been alive and completely in a zombie-like state, totally compliant, that would have been better. But I want to ask you, having read that, is your testimony that in the answers to all of those questions, Jeffrey Dahmer was not telling you that he was a necrophile?
He engaged in necrophilic behavior.
Pardon?
Sexual behavior. He was engaging in necrophilic behavior. Sexual behavior with a deceased person is necrophilic behavior.
Doctor,
That may or may not be the primary choice, but at least.
why did you go to Jeffrey Dahmer and try and get him to define a psychiatric concept of whether he was a pure necrophile, a necrophile of another sort? Why was it necessary for you to have a discussion with him as to how he considered himself as it relates to a psychiatric term?
I wasn't trying to get him to determine what his diagnosis is I needed a follow-up on his orientation and his desires and his interests.
It wasn't to defeat the argument that he was necrophilic, was it?
No,
Ava asking the real questions here.
just how much pleasure did that give him in contrast to little or that type thing?
Finishing up, before I check with my people here, in your final report, the 3-page report that you read, you said in the third last paragraph, even though his sexual desires were described as strong and, quote, lustful, quid quote, paren, his words, close paren, he described being rather selective in choosing his partners/victims, and he also mentioned which various conditions and circumstances that would deter him or cause him to refrain from engaging in any homicidal behavior. That's what he told him.
True.
And that had something to do with your decision that he could conform his conduct to the requirements of the law.
Yes.
And at the time that he told you those things that caused you to make that statement on your official report, you knew that while he was out of his apartment, a youngster, Conrad Sinthamason, had been drilled in his head by Jeffrey Dahmer, was seen on the street naked, was observed by citizens that caused a furor when Jeffrey Dahmer came to bring him back to his apartment, that the police and the fire department were called, that he confronted the police and convinced the police that this was his boyfriend, that he allowed the police to go back to his apartment with him without arguing against their coming in, allowed them to come in, while in the next room there was a dead body on the bed, that he stood there and convinced the police that this was his boyfriend, and he showed the police pictures of this boyfriend, causing the police to accept that explanation, telling the police that he was going to take care of him, this youngster, 15 years of age, and that the police left, and within hours thereafter, he killed that boy. This is a man, as far as you are concerned, who was in control of his environment to the point where he could have conformed his conduct to the requirements of the law relative to the killing of that youngster, Conrad Sinthamason. Is that your answer? What is your answer?
Yes, it is.
Sir, I completely checked out days ago. Yes, sure. What are we doing here?
That's all I have. Thank you, Dr. Faust.
Mr. McCann?
You know McCann ain't done.
The suggestion has been, Doctor, that at that time the defendant was weary and broken and so on. Would you turn to page 157 of the confession, which you considered reflecting what in fact the state of the defendant was after the Conrad Sinthamason incident? Yeah. Did you consider that page 157?
That's the part that fucks with me. I am T-Pain. That's part of the story when a little kid is on the street drugged, and the police are like, that's just a gay lover. That's his boyfriend. What are we doing here? And there's a lady literally there saying, something's off here. This is fucked up. This is a child.
Yes, I have it flagged here and underlined in regard to the issue of contributing factors as to his involvement in the crime, and further explanation to try to understand how he could continue committing the crimes.
Would you read that to the, you've gone through the confession, flagged various items that you felt bore on different issues, And that's one of the portions you flagged, is that correct?
Yes, and underlined in red.
Would you read to the jury what his comments were about his performance, his comments in the police confession that you considered in terms of the counteract synthesis phone incident, that entire paragraph?
Well, he said he was extremely nervous during the time of the questioning by the police, which makes sense. He put on a very calm attitude and felt he was able to convince the police that it was a lover's problem between two homosexuals. He related that due to the fact that he was able to convince all these people in positions of authority, his parents and neighbors who questioned him regularly, questioned him regarding his activities, it gave him a feeling that he could get away with his crimes. He felt that he had the ability to make people see a phase of him that only he wished them to see, and that this encouraged him to continue on with his crimes, feeling that he would never get caught. I would say just basically, in trying to understand his behavior and the continuation of his behavior, the attitude a defendant has about what he's been doing has a lot to do with whether or not he's going to continue doing it. And certainly if the person has felt successful or been able to get away with it, so to speak, that certainly then the law does not act as much of a deterrent, and if the person thinks they can keep on doing it and they have a successful operation going, that certainly helps explain in part why a person...
Sadly, IMT Payne, we've learned that the police during this time period, I think this was early 90s, maybe late 80s on that one. I think it was 90 though. Yeah, I mean, the police were afraid of gay people, quite frankly. The AIDS pandemic was going on. And I don't know if you remember the news during that period of time. I was a child, but I still remember it. Everything was crazy. Everything was super fucked up. Everyone was scared because of lies that was being ran throughout the media. Yeah, and the police, nobody wanted to mess with it. If that was Dahmer's entire game, basically saying like, oh yeah, there's a lot of gay stuff going on here. You don't want to come in here. That was his entire ploy. Like, it was incredibly fucked up. Yeah, you have a young man running down the street, drugged. You have other witnesses there saying that this is not right. Something's off here. This is literally clearly a child. But then the police give him back because you have Jeffrey Dahmer walking up and saying, no, he's just drunk. No, that's my boyfriend. Come on. It's fucked up, man.
Might continue doing something.
91. Thanks, Hope 8 Fear.
Does that sound to you like a person that's out of control, that's standing there, that can't handle himself, that's standing there persuading the officers of that the situation is not any danger for the young man, for the counteract?
I'm sure that was a major crisis for Mr. Dahmer in that his whole schema was getting very close to getting discovered, about as close as it could have been, and that he did one...
Yeah, exactly. Man. Yeah, there was a recording released of the woman calling the police back because she was still concerned about the child going back to Dahmer. Her daughter recognized him as school age.
Strenuous job of trying to recover his position.
I think they played the actual call, if I'm not mistaken, maybe at the end of that episode in the Netflix show. Don't quote me on that, but I think they did. And yeah, the police were basically like, yeah, we looked into it. Everything seems to be on the up and up. Everything is fine, ma'am. Please just go back to your apartment. What the...
And to finesse his way out of that situation. I'm sure it was a great relief to him to have those officers leave and have not been discovered.
Did he in fact finesse his way out of that situation?
Well, apparently he provided a bogus explanation and a very convincing explanation, and from what I recall, he showed them the pictures he had taken earlier and that this is what's going on, and he apparently was successful in recovering from that close call.
And these are the pictures that he had taken earlier of counteracts into some phone, the boy that then went out onto the street, is that correct?
I think he mentioned 2 perhaps in his underwear.
With respect to the
That was a 1950s cop.
discussion on January 9th, the time was tied up, the defendant's time was tied up by other commitments for the January 6th, 7th, and 8th, is that correct?
Yes.
You simply were not able to get time to see him on those days, is that true?
That's true.
With respect to the material, the points that have been touched upon by Mr. Boyle in that discussion, starting at page, on the preference for a live or dead body, would you look to page 51 of your notes? That paragraph that starts, I see
Holy
a
shit. I had to look that up, and I think I found this, Lisa. We had the worst AIDS ads on TV here, the Grim Reaper using a bowling ball on people. And I think I found it. From Australia. 1987 AIDS ad. Get old McCain off the screen there, hanging out.
At first, only gays and IV drug users were being killed by AIDS. But now we know every one of us could be devastated by it. The fact is, over 50,000 men, women, and children now carry the AIDS virus. That in 3 years, nearly 2,000 of us will be dead. That if not stopped, it could kill more Australians than World War II. But AIDS can be stopped, and you can help stop it. If you have sex, have just one safe partner, or always use condoms. Always.
Always. Wow. Holy crap, that was dark as fuck. Wow. I agree, Emily. I'm going to have to go into the smoke here in a second. Oh shit, my bad. Sorry. That's what happens when I change a video. Sorry about that. And then I'm going back and looking at the fucking chat every time.
Person,
1 second, I'm going to go back.
answer yeah.
We're at
Yes,
23. I'll go
but
back.
if he had been
Sorry
alive
about
and
that.
complete.
Could have had, and read that to the jury.
You could have had a very compatible cooperative partner. Wouldn't that be good enough? And the answer was, it would have, but I never did run into anybody who was willing to be permanently cooperative.
Does that suggest to you that the defendant preferred a live partner?
That's true.
Would you drop down 3 or 4 questions to where it was to the 2 questions, did it matter much to your enjoyment?
The question was, did it matter much to your enjoyment of the guy that he was deceased? The answer was no, because at that point I had complete control, and so that heightened the excitement.
And the next question and answer?
Question was more exciting than with a live person. Answer, yeah. Yeah, yes, but if he had been alive and complete in a zombie-like state, totally compliant, that would have been better.
To have a totally compliant zombie then would be better than a dead person. Is that how you understood it?
True.
Does that suggest to you that the defendant preferred a live person to a dead person?
True.
With respect to the discussion about the defendant, how he would like to be the king of the world, you put that question to him, did you want to be king of the world? Was that a facetious question?
In part, yes.
And was his answer, how did you take his answer to be? That was actually an ambition of his?
Well, no, not to be king. Yeah, he did not want to be king of the world. But he understood
Indicated
that
he would like more power and control in his life.
He was an employee, and he didn't feel he had much freedom and power and things like that.
Would you read to the jury, Mr. Boyle, you dropped that out, Mr. Boyle had you drop that out. Would you read to the jury your next question and answer after that king of the world question? Your question with
Question, you were an employee, so you were locked into somebody else's wishes there. You weren't your own boss. Answer, which I didn't like. No, I never got any satisfaction from the job.
And then he went into a discussion about what he had done with Dr. Dietz, is that
Dietz.
correct? Doctor, with respect to whether or not necrophilia is a mental disease or not, there is a dispute between psychiatrists on that. Is that correct?
Everybody would agree that a paraphilia and even the subcategory of necrophilia is a mental disorder, which psychiatric disorders are considered diseases, and especially for legal purposes, can vary amongst examiners.
Some believe there is, and some believe it isn't. Is that correct?
Some disorders, everybody would be in agreement that it would be a disease for legal purposes, such as schizophrenia or bipolar manic depressive disorder or Alzheimer's disease. Other disorders, such as a sexual disorder, let's say a non-psychotic sexual disorder, examiners might differ as to how they would categorize that for legal purposes.
Would you turn to, I think it's page 29 of the Exhibit 27, the DSM-3R, the cautionary statement. I believe it's on page 29, Roman numeral 29.
What page again?
Roman numeral 29, I believe it is, the cautionary statement. Yes, it's Roman numeral 29. Would you read that full last paragraph to the jury?
I have to practice my Roman numerals here.
Okay, it's 2 X's, an I, and an X.
Why don't you get Dr. Palermo in here to help out?
I've got 27 if I know my Roman numerals.
Here's the
Oh, down at the bottom, right.
Would you read the last paragraph?
The purpose of DSM-3R is to provide clear descriptions of diagnostic categories in order to enable clinicians and investigators to diagnose, communicate about, study, and treat the various mental disorders. It is to be understood that inclusion here for clinical and research purposes of a diagnostic category such as pathological gambling or pedophilia does not imply that the condition meets legal or other non-medical criteria for what constitutes mental disease, mental disorder, or mental disability. The clinical and scientific considerations involved in categorization of these conditions as mental disorders may not be wholly WHOLLY relevant to legal judgments, for example, that take into account such issues as individual responsibility, which is what this hearing is all about, disability determination, and competency.
One of the examples cited, particularly as for scrutiny, is pedophilia. That's one of the paraphilias, isn't it?
Yes.
Do you think that they could easily as well put in there necrophilia or some of the other philias as well?
Sure.
And the suggestion was, look at, with respect to the paraphilias and certain other things such as gambling, that disorder, that there's dispute within the profession on it. Would that be accurate?
True.
Did the defendant at any time say to you that he enjoyed the killing?
Repeatedly deny that. That was not, I think that's established.
Right. And did he say anything about taking pleasure from the killing?
No, repeatedly deny that.
but he took pleasure from the sex before and after. Is that correct?
That's what he wanted.
What role then did the necrophilia, the sex after death, what role does that have in the killing?
To prolong the relationship and prolong the sexual availability time, the hurdle or step, H-U-R-D-L-E, hurdle or step of taking the person's life had to take place. Otherwise, without that step, the person would have awakened from the drug state and then been, what do you do then? Does the person go, leave, then he's without his partner, he's potentially in trouble, could be reported. If he liked the person well enough, he wanted to prolong the relationship, and there weren't many options, so one option is the taking of the life.
So that the pleasure was the sex before and after, but he did not have that powerful draw or a motive, a desire for the killing. Is that correct?
That was a unwanted step.
And he nevertheless, even when he dealt with those inhibitions against doing that killing, did he not in a specific way or ways?
True.
And what were those ways?
I don't understand your question.
What did he use alcohol to address those inhibitions?
Alcohol certainly affected his capacity to refrain from following through with that step. Being intoxicated to some degree, and in some cases quite intoxicated, certainly facilitated his ability to do that. Alcohol clearly is one of the leading explanations for impairing control and judgment. And being intoxicated certainly, in his own words, facilitated his being able to do it. It made it easier for him to do it.
Right. I'm not going to have you reread the statement in the confession. The jury heard that on direct examination. But in terms of just so the jury understands that while he was desired the sex before and after, that was a desire that he had to enjoy that. He did not, killing was not part of the desire, was it?
That's true.
In fact, it was against his desires, in effect, that he undertook the killing. Is that true?
True.
And that was for the purpose of continuing his sexual pleasure, the killings.
Continue the relationship, and he wanted the relationship for sexual purposes.
Does the uniqueness of this case make it somehow impossible to perform a psychiatric evaluation of the individual?
No, it does not.
Does the fact that there may or may not be other cases similar to it make it impossible to perform a proper psychiatric evaluation of the defendant?
It does not.
In terms of the bizarreness of the act, that a person would take pleasure, that what most people would say bizarre, to take sexual pleasure with a dead body. Does that mean he must be insane because he took pleasure with that body?
No, it does not.
You indicated when you were working at the Central State Hospital, when you were working later at Mendota, you performed hundreds of evaluations on people that had sexual problems. Is that correct?
There and also in my private practice.
And does the fact that it's bizarre, that a person's desire is bizarre, mean that they must be insane?
No, I would say, in my experience, the most bizarre and reckless and most unusual crimes I've seen have been in non-mentally ill people. They may have personality problems, of course, but they're not traditionally mentally ill, like schizophrenic or that type of thing. They're from people who have unusual personalities.
You know, that you're saying that the most bizarre cases you've seen were not mentally ill people, just people with sexual disorders.
No, with people with unhealthy personalities. They were not mentally diseased, and they were able to carry out some pretty wild and reckless and unfortunate behavior. It was a reflection of their personality makeup and not a reflection of a type of mental disease.
And in fact,
I gave a talk years ago, beware of the non-mentally ill. So
Yeah, at some point you just got to go, well, all right.
All right, in other words, you're saying the most bizarre were done by persons who were not mentally ill, the most bizarre sexual acts you've seen.
The dangerous people in society are not the mentally ill. Beware of the non-mentally ill people. The mentally ill people in our society have a bum rap as far as being attributed as the dangerous people. It's the more antisocial, personality disorder people who are the ones that cause the trouble.
And is that...
I mean, whopping percentage differences. We're not talking 50-50. We're talking high percentages of non-mentally ill people causing crimes and recidivism and what have you, in contrast with a small percentage of true mentally ill people who get in trouble with the law.
That's interesting. That's super interesting. So antisocial people are more prevalent to cause destruction or harm in society than actually mentally ill folk. Wow. Interesting.
Of the...
and this is 1992, so yeah, I would like to see those numbers now in 2023, actually. See if they've, like, stayed sort of the same, I know the population has grew immensely, but yeah, if they've sort of stayed on the same path with growth, or if they've changed.
You examined the police report, a multi-page police report taken by the police from Tracy Edwards shortly after the arrest of Mr. Dahmer. Is that accurate?
Yes, I have a statement from him.
And you examined that in reaching your conclusion. Is that correct?
Page 5, 6. Looks like 5-page document.
Do you recall anything about chanting or rocking being in that report according to your recollection?
Do not.
In terms of being hired by private counsel, over the last 20 years, would it be safe to say that there has been a shift in terms of fewer and fewer private attorneys becoming involved in criminal cases, directly involved?
I'm going to object to this being the material relevant.
No, it went to, I'm not touching on this, going on his examination about who hired him. Though there may be a very good reason why fewer private counsel hired him.
Well, there could be a lot of reasons. I don't think it's relevant.
Is it so irrelevant that you do not intend to comment on it in your closing argument, Mr. Boyle?
What if I said the answer and I was wrong?
Then if there is some question about that, I think Mr. McCann should be allowed to...
Kind of like the judge, okay, you're full of shit. That's what that okay was right there. Okay.
ask limited questions in the area because this was brought up on direct examination. Objections overruled for the moment.
Boyle, I mean, it'd be interesting to have seen Gerald Boyle in like a different setting, another courtroom, another trial than the one he's in here. Because this one is, I mean, it's interesting as hell, but you know, it's a lot of repetition with what we're talking about here. We kind of know where it's going. But the way he argues, it would be interesting to see if he was defending somebody of murder or something like that.
Have you made observations, because of your extensive forensic work, that there appear to be fewer private attorneys becoming involved in felony cases in particular?
It appears that way. I would say that with the indefinite establishment of a statewide public defender system, which has definitely expanded in the last 20 years, I would, in my experience, almost all of criminal defense work is, well, the majority of it is public defender related, and or the attorneys are maybe downtown attorneys that are public defender appointed.
In other words, where they would, instead of a private engagement, in certain cases where there's a conflict of interest, the public defender assigns that out to private counsel.
Again, ask the defense bar as to how much private retaining there. I don't know. That's not my department.
But certainly there's a great deal more public defender percentage handling felonies than there was 20 years ago. Is that correct?
Now we're really going far, and I object to it as being material and irrelevant.
Sustained.
The judge gave him that one. Now look at his face. He's just smiling.
In the
Boyle's face. He's like, I got him on that one. Oh, yeah, baby. I'll tell you right now.
Son of a bitch!
The heaviest percentage of the cases in which you provide an opinion on responsibility, you are appointed by the court. Is that correct?
On the responsibility issue?
Yes.
Yes, that's, they're almost all court-appointed. But again, how the examiners are selected, I'm not there when this is going on, and like Mr. Boyle stated, the attorneys may submit names and the judge picks them, and I suspect my name is recommended by one side or the other. But at least the final appointment, the court order, the report, and the bill routinely goes to the court.
Now, insofar as this was an unusual case and the volume of homicide, you gave it more time than one would ordinarily give on a one-count homicide charge. Is that correct?
This is almost 15 or 17 cases in one here, so divide my time by 15 and it won't look so unusual.
Did you think it professionally important that you discuss each homicide case with the defendant?
At least a comment from him about each case. I could even be criticized for not spending more time on each case. And I'm looking over my records. I have much more detail about the earlier ones. And as time goes on, there's a little getting briefer and more glossing over. And maybe this is similar to what Mr. Dahmer was going through in his own life experience. It became easier for him, and he remembered the names better of the first ones, which stuck more in his mind, and the later ones were a little more blurred.
The defendant was involved in a desensitization process at that time, he told you. Is that correct?
He used that word a few times, yes.
Now, in terms of yourself, however, you felt that each case individually you had to discuss, at least get a basic idea from Mr. Dahmer what transpired. Is that true?
A basic account, there were 15 charges, and I guess at least for testifying and reporting purposes, had I never discussed 5, 10 of the crimes, how can you have an opinion about a case you never talked about, except in a general way?
In terms of what you relied on information you received from the police, I think probably information from our office, but you nevertheless felt it forensically important to discuss with the defendant himself his opinion and statements as to each homicide. Would that be correct?
Very definitely.
Now, would you tell the jury what, and you've reminded me that I repeated it several times to you in either later meetings, what our understanding was when you were engaged by the district attorney's office, what the understanding was as to whether or not, and what you would do if you found the defendant sane or insane. Would you please relate that to the jury?
Basically to evaluate Mr. Dahmer for the issue of his mental responsibility at the times of the various charges, report back to you, and share my objective and independent assessment of the case and the mental status of the defendant as to whether or not, in my opinion, he meets the standard for mental non-responsibility. And you inquired this of me, I know as late of my third evaluation as to that you wanted to know if I could support the plea.
And what did I tell you if you did not support the plea?
If I did not or did?
No, I said when I engaged you and when we met several times, did I expressly advert to the fact that if you did not support the plea, what the arrangement would be? If you did not.
You told me if you did support the plea, if I did support the plea, of course you wanted to know that, and of course you would of course share that with Mr. Boyle.
If you support it, did I tell you what you should do or what I would do if you did not support the plea? In other words, were you to keep it a secret if you didn't support the plea?
Oh, no.
Okay. I'm sorry. I missed. My counsel advises me by not supporting the plea what was meant, and maybe it was confusing with the question.
Well, I responded the first time.
Shit. Tangled Crochet going to come through here with the $5, passing the plate around, because got to show love for Murder Church. Thank you so much, Tangled. Appreciate that. Let me give you a little love first of all. Hold on.
Give me the loot.
A little bit. I'm going to give you some ODB this morning, too. Set it right, baby. Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you so much. So we're going to hit you with a little bit. I ain't hit nobody with this one in a minute. Hold on.
I'm sober enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm drunk enough to really enjoy doing it.
Mr. Jim Leahy. Thank you, sir.
If I did support the plea, I would so inform you, and then you would share that with defense.
With Mr. Boyle. Is that correct? And you would be available then to the defense to testify. Is that true?
In my experience, if I support the plea, the case is usually agreed to. It's irrelevant, but
In other words,
when I support the plea, the case is usually worked out.
in other words, if you felt it might be worked out if you had felt, in most cases, if you feel the person is not responsible, the case is worked out in some other fashion than trial.
In this case, of course, I would say, of course, get a second and third opinion, but at least these are my findings. And but in most cases, if there are a couple defense, and a defense doctor supporting the plea, I'm commonly brought in as a second opinion, and if I concur with the defense findings, I guess it sounds arrogant, but let's say at least most DAs in the state would not continue to shop around. They would accept my findings. So I have not been involved in a case. This is an aside, irrelevant, but since January of 1974, where I was fine.
Just in summary, would it be safe to say I told you that if you find that he...
I need to get some new ones. I need to sit down and get some new tunage on there, like a couple of good little, nice little hits to get you energized, right?
is sane, that we will use you. If you find that
The blood flowing, baby.
he is insane, we will advise the defense of that, and you may be available to them to testify.
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
If they so wish. Is that true?
True.
Thank you.
But that's what the law requires, doesn't it?
I'm not a lawyer. I just know that's the way it works.
Well, doctor, as a doctor, if you had agreed with the plea, wouldn't you and the rest of the world be shocked if that wasn't made known to the defense? You know it would have been made known to the defense.
That's my understanding, right?
Of course.
This-
Now, you talked about, Mr. McCann read to you this disclaimer in DSM 3R where it's not supposed to be dispositive of anything to do with the law, and he uses the example of gambling and pedophilia. The fact of the matter is, whether the disclaimer exists or doesn't exist, you have told us you found a mental disease, correct?
Yes, I would.
All right.
Yes.
Then the other thing that we have to ask about is this business about being fearful of the people who are not mentally ill, the speech that you made. You were talking about people who have personality disorders of an antisocial nature. Isn't that the kind of person that you're cautioning the world to be careful of?
Commonly, yes.
Yes, not paraphilic disorder people.
No. True.
Now, my notes of your notes, or your notes, indicate to me that it wasn't until December the 20th and your fourth meeting that you sat down with Mr. Dahmer and went through case by case with him. Is that true?
Specifically, yes. We discussed all the cases in general, pretty much the second and third interview.
It's just the way you do it.
Well, it's the way it evolved.
All right. And the fact of the matter is you decided you could spend all that other time talking about whatever you wanted to, but at some juncture, you wanted to make sure that you talked to him about each case, and you did that on December the 20th.
The earlier information was background and preparation for a more specific discussion of each case.
And how long did you average on each case?
Can't say, I'm sure it varied as to how much data he presented.
You only needed to talk about as much as you think you needed in order to do your job, right?
Basically, because the procedures were quite similar, there was definite overlap in motive and route procedure. So each case wasn't entirely different. And also Mr. Dahmer himself would say pretty much the same scenario. These would be his words. And
Couple more questions. Just so there isn't any misunderstanding, there's an awful lot of lawyers who do what I do for a living, and that is private practitioners who are
Uh-oh, Viv going to come through here, putting a little bit of dough in the plate this morning, $5. Caught the plate, now passing it around for Pastor Steve. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm going to give you a little biggie. Oh. My bad man. I'm going to hit you with a little ODB on the front side also. Boom. And the very rare.
This is gun country.
It's gun country, baby. Thank you, Viv. Appreciate
Available to take on criminal cases. You're not suggesting.
Yeah. Black pudding, Charlotte? Do you eat black pudding? Beard Meets Food, the YouTube channel I just mentioned in the chat there, he eats these, he's a food challenge guy, but going around, the UK, wherever he's at in England, they always have these insane breakfast challenges, and black pudding is always hanging out on the plate, and it's the grossest looking shit. I think it's just blood, like it's like congealed blood, maybe. I don't know exactly what it is. Maybe Charlotte can enlighten us there.
That I'm in some kind of a legal minority group, are you?
Mr. Boy, I have no idea how much private criminal defense work goes on and what the nature of your practice is. All I know is that in most of my criminal work, it's usually a public defender, especially in Milwaukee County, or an attorney appointed by the public defender's office. But
if I were to tell you that there's hundreds of
at least it's from Australia, so is black pudding not as prevalent in Australia?
Lawyers in the state that do what I do, would you take issue with that?
You're saying private criminal defense work?
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the education.
Yeah, okay.
Uh-oh, got a black pudding lover. Are you from England, Kelly?
You don't know nothing that contradict that, would you?
Again, I have no idea.
Well, I didn't bring it up. It was
no, I didn't either.
Okay. Now, in closing...
I'm looking it up.
You indicated that this is a unique case.
Here we go. Black pudding is a distinct regional type of blood sausage originating in the United Kingdom and Ireland, and it is made from pork or beef blood with pork fat or beef suet, I think I'm saying that right, and a cereal, usually oatmeal, oat groats, or barley groats. But yeah, it always looks like the grossest shit ever when Beard is eating it on his YouTube channel. Look at this. Almost looks like sushi, not sushi, but also like that weird wrap, that eel wrap or whatever. But no. Yeah, look at this. This is kind of like an English breakfast right here, guys. Charlotte, you eating this black pudding? Uh-oh, here we go. $4.99. I have an awful feeling this comes out of my ex-husband's ACC, and I have to put up with his disdainful face as he tells me again. Worth it, though. Thank you, Charlotte. Appreciate it. Love you. Now, do you eat black pudding? The real questions. The hard questions are out here now. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. And you're going to get a little love, baby. Love it. Thank you. I'll give you one of these.
I don't remember asking you a goddamn thing.
Love it. Oh, here we go. Black pudding, not my bag, but people love it with a fry-up English breakfast. Yeah, I mean that's what I can do. I could do the rest of it, except probably for that part. I don't know. There's some other weird shit looking in there too. I like beans though. I do like beans. All right, Jay, get the hell out of here. What are you doing? You're now kicked out. Looks better than steak. What the hell? Good Lord, man.
One of the most unique cases, if not the most unique case, precedent setting, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
If your decision after reviewing Mr. Dahmer's condition...
Uh-oh, a little too early. Say no to globalism going to come through here with a $9.99 passing the plate in the bowl. Ooh, love that. Love that. Thank you so much, baby. Give you one of these right here. Actually, yeah. Oh. Yeah, I'm going to get a couple more of these right here. Don't you worry. Love it. What else I'm going to hit you with? I'm going to hit you with a little something else right now. I'm going to hit you with a little bit of
Dan's a fantastic.
Dan's a fantastic man. And then, of course... Shit. Yeah, thank you so much. Sue it. Okay, Janet, got me. I've never seen that one before, and that was a new one for me. And I've not that I'm like any kind of great name translator, but I'm usually a little bit better than the one fucks me up is actual people's names, like actual last names.
Been parallel with Dr. Berlin, Dr. Wallstrom, and Dr. Becker. You're not suggesting that on the strength of your opinion, agreeing with those three, that this case would have been ended by stipulation.
That's that country, baby.
No, I'm sure, well, let me make a point.
Let's go.
My
Oh, Lord.
findings,
Can you ship it?
findings are very much
Like, will it stay okay?
parallel. We're not talking different apples and oranges here so much. We're all talking personality. We're all agreeing on alcoholism. We're all agreeing.
Now, this is the kind of talk that you would expect during Murder Church of a Jeffrey Dahmer insanity trial. Actually, in Germany, they combine it with cow's tongue. Gotta eat those organ meats, boys and girls.
On a sexually disordered person, how much it is, how strongly purely necrophile he is, and how much of his necrophilic behavior is secondary. You know, there's different data on there, so we can arrive at different weight there. The difference in the
You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. Hold on. That one does just set the mood, right? Yeah, yeah.
case relates to trying to apply our clinical findings to the standard, and that boils down to the conformity issue. So different people are applying pretty much the same clinical findings to the issue of conformity, and that's where the difference is coming up in applying our knowledge to the legal standard.
You have been asked time and time again whether it mattered, whether there was a live body, a comatose body, or a dead body, and what you have just told us, that basically that is not dispositive of the issue as to whether or not he was a pure necrophile or a mixed necrophile or a person who just wanted him comatose.
That's the unboxing we're doing here on Murder Church. Black pudding. Little pockets of blood.
The question is whether or not he was able to conform his conduct to the requirements of the law. Isn't that what you just said?
True.
And the pure necrophile, that poor person that has that disability, doesn't kill in order to bring about the object of his paraphilic disorder. True?
He does kill.
The pure necrophile kills?
He needs to, his sexual thing is a corpse. To get there, some type. He can either kill to get a corpse, steal a corpse, you know.
Or find himself a job where a corpse
Right,
is already.
so, where do you find corpses?
So what my question is, it doesn't matter whether he was a pure, mixed, or whatever he was, as long as you say he could conform his conduct to requirements of the law, the rest of that, the pure necrophile concept, may be completely immaterial to your finding, right?
I think it's very important to the understanding of this case to differentiate that issue, and it has clinical significance and it's clinical diagnostic significance, that this is, in my opinion, the necrophilic behavior was more secondary, and that this individual is not a person who, since the age of 15, has been waiting for the day that he can create corpse to have sexual pleasure. I think that person, that being, is very different than Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer is not that person. Jeffrey Dahmer, I've explained it for 2 days.
If Jeffrey Dahmer was...
It's like, I've been explaining this forever. Listen to the words that are coming out of my mouth.
...that person, but did not show hallucinations, psychosis, or delusional thinking, your answers would not be any different than they were in this case, correct?
The application to the standard would not change as far as opinions go, but the nature of the person we're talking about, those are two different types of people, and I think, in Mr. Dahmer's sake, it's important for us to understand where he's at, and that there is a difference between the pure necrophile, the primary necrophile, and his behavior, and that this is not him. He was not that way.
but without delusions, without hallucinations, without a psychosis, without schizophrenia, your answer as to the ultimate question would not be any different than the way you had expounded it on the basis of the facts that were presented to you in the, forming the basis of your opinion, correct?
In this case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. McCann?
So the jury understands, though, in this case, you filed...
Free this man. No, not Jeffrey
not a
Dahmer.
character file, is that correct?
Don't free
That's
this
my
man.
interpretation, and
That could be taken out of context real quick.
his drugging behavior and his necrophilic behavior are two tragic substitute behaviors of an individual who
For the love of God, change the
earlier
camera.
has failed to establish more normal homosexual partners and relationships. This is a breakdown, a failure because of his personality, getting involved with people, and that, like he told Dr. Bechter very nicely in his report about being too shy, in her notes about being so shy and not being able to meet people
Free Fosdal.
and
Fuck's
establish
sake.
a boyfriend. When you can't, when you're blocked there, and when you block, you get into alternate behaviors. And if I want somebody to be with somebody, then I start drugging people to get my needs satisfied. And then, unfortunately, that branched off into actually killing people to satisfy that need.
When you use the term breakdown, you meant just a lowering of standards. You weren't referring to what sometimes
No,
people say is a nervous breakdown.
I'm saying there's a blockage at that point. He doesn't form relationships. He doesn't have the lovers. Therefore, you get into alternate behaviors, substitute behaviors. If the heterosexual adult man doesn't form adult heterosexual relationships, but he still has heterosexual needs, commonly then female child molesting is a tragic substitute. That's what it's all about.
Doctor, precisely because as you moved into it, saw there was no evidence of psychosis, little dispute apparently about knowing right from wrong, as a forensic psychiatrist, a trained forensic psychiatrist, knowing the law of the state of Wisconsin, you knew that the issue would be conformity, and hence the time you spent reviewing the case, establishing when Dahmer was controlling, and that long list of things I adduced at the end of a long day's testimony on Saturday was the importance of that. Precisely, you recognize that as a psychiatrist, a forensic psychiatrist, the importance of that particular type of evidence, did you not?
I'm aware of the three prongs of the standard for mental non-responsibility, and you gather information on all three prongs. Even if you found a person with no mental disorder, in cases you still evaluate their capacity for wrongfulness and their capacity for conformity. Even though they, strictly speaking, you don't necessarily quit upon finding a no mental disorder.
And you can understand why a psychologist that never testified in a court of law on responsibility, never testified, you could understand why that psychologist would miss and not appreciate the importance of issues of conformity and control. Is that correct?
Wait. Objection. It's improper recall.
Sustained.
I know we just moved his chair, but it sounded like that Fosdal squeaked one out there just a little bit. It's like, man, this is the perfect opportunity. Damn it, it's complete silence, and everyone heard it.
Would you consider that a skilled forensic psychiatrist would say that you could tell the forest without counting the trees, and that it wasn't necessary to talk about each particular slaying with the defendant? Can you conceive of a skilled forensic psychiatrist making such a statement?
Same objection. It's improper redirect.
Sustained. I think it's outside the scope of the recross.
So that you knew from early on in the case, one of the important aspects would be conformity, issues of control, and carefully documented that as you prepared for this proceeding. Is that correct?
It's repetitious because I don't know how long the answer is going to be, so I'm going to object.
Be a brief answer, I'm sure.
Okay, if it's brief, I'll withdraw my objection.
Go ahead, Doctor.
I had to proceed with my own assessment. I did
Oh,
not-
yes, 47 concurrent viewers, match likes. Boom! It's one of the greatest moments that can truly be reached here on YouTube.
I had no idea what other people were going to call him or think of him. I didn't know this until I saw the reports come in, until the reports were shared. I didn't, I don't know what my colleagues are going to say.
All right, Doctor, let me repeat the question. From the time you're getting in and addressing the issue of right and wrong and the issue of psychosis, when you addressed those as you met forward, you appreciated, as you drew towards the end of your interviews, that the issue of conformity and control would be very important. Is that correct?
Yes, based on my assessment, I would say that's what we're dealing with here.
And that's
this
why
is a type of disorder, and there's 23 examples that even by his own admission, he is expressing and demonstrating his appreciation of wrongfulness, and then the issue is conformity.
It's getting a little long now. Object to any further questions about this type of thing?
And you were aware of that as you prepared your reports, is that correct?
I'll stipulate to that.
I thought you were going to object to it.
No, I'll stipulate to that one because I
Okay.
know the doctor does a good job.
Okay.
Thank you, Doctor, very much.
Doctor, I think you may step down at this point.
Holy shit, they freed.
No? You
I don't have any questions.
okay.
Bull's out here just fucking around now. They were freeing Fosdell.
I was correct. You may step down.
I thought I missed.
We'll take a little recess before we get to the next witness.
Good Lord.
Recess.
Going to the next witness. New face.
And then, sir, would you...
What we got here? We got three people. Three people are going to come through in the span of 44 minutes. Wayne Boeing, Melvin Hinney, Joseph Carha. Probably butchered every one of those. Let's find out. Stay tuned to find out. First, let me hit you with a stinger. I love the little murder church stingers, and you're going to love them too. Murder Chill, yeah. Yeah, let people know that you're hanging out and watching Murder Church today. Share that on the old Twitter/X, on whatever platform you use, whether it's Facebook, Instagram. Let people know you're here hanging out with Publicly Buzzed, watching Murder Church this morning. Appreciate everyone for being here. Thanks, guys.
State your name and spell your last name, please.
Wayne Boening, Boening.
And Mr. Banning, you're employed at the Westside Chocolate Factory.
That's correct.
It's from the Chocolate Factory.
How long have you been so employed?
It's over 11 years.
And what are your duties there present?
I'm a production supervisor.
And in the course of your employment, did you have the opportunity to meet someone known to you as Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes, I did.
Is he present in the courtroom now?
Yes, he is.
You stipulate?
I stipulate, Your Honor.
Okay. When did you first meet Mr. Dahmer?
I became his supervisor, I believe it was in May of 1986. I had met him before that, but I became his supervisor then.
Okay. Do you recall if he was an employee of the Westside Chocolate Company at the time you became a supervisor?
At the time that I became a supervisor?
His supervisor?
Yes, he was.
Okay. And did he have to go through a probationary period?
Yes, he did.
How long does the probationary period last?
Probationary period is 1 year.
Okay. And did you review his performance while he was on probation?
I did not.
Okay. How many folks did you directly supervise when you were supervising Mr. Dahmer in 1986?
In 86.
God, somebody's got to make it. I know, somebody fucked up. That's almost be like an Adult Swim thing, right? Like, document by animation Jeffrey Dahmer working in the chocolate factory.
6 would have been 4 people.
Okay. Did you have any major problems with Mr. Dahmer in the early years of his employment with the Westside Chocolate Company?
No, I did not.
What is the title of what job Mr. Dahmer had at the Westside Chocolate Company?
He is a member of a production team involved in making chocolate.
Okay. And specifically, would you describe his job as that of a mixer?
Yes, you could use that.
Okay. And is that pretty much the same position he held up until the time of his termination in July of this year? last year?
Yes.
Okay. Could you describe what the duties of a mixer are, please?
He'd be responsible for measuring ingredients according to a recipe.
Okay. Would he have to order up raw materials?
Yes, he would.
Okay.
Yo, Janet gonna come through with the $5, passing the plate to the row behind me. Fill her up. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, Janet.
Give me the loot. Give me the loot.
I'm a bad man. Oh, cracked the beer open a little early. I'm actually drinking water this morning. Boom. I can get down to those every single time. Thank you, Janet. Appreciate that.
And would he have to add the cocoa, the oil, the sugar, the flavorings to the all those raw materials to make the basic chocolate?
Yes.
Okay. And would specific ingredients have to be added at certain times relative to other ingredients?
Pretty much so, yes.
Okay. And did Mr. Dahmer perform those sort of activities adequately?
Yeah, just think about that statement in general. I'm Jeffrey Dahmer's former boss at this chocolate factory that he worked at. First of all, you work at a chocolate factory. I'd like to know a little bit more about that, sir. I think I may want to add that first. I want to know that before I even know the Jeffrey Dahmer stories. So, what chocolate factory do you work at, first of all, sir?
He did a satisfactory job.
I'd say he's from, I think it said was that a Hershey's? Are we talking Hershey's?
How many mixers work at one time, usually?
When we're fully staffed, 3.
Okay. Compared with other mixers who worked at the Westside Chocolate Company, how was Mr. Dahmer's performance? How would you rate his performance?
It was satisfactory.
Okay. Did Mr. Dahmer get along with the other employees?
As much as I could see, yes.
Okay. How did he act in relation to you? Did he get along with you?
I had no problems with Jeff.
Was he polite, courteous?
Jeff was always polite and courteous, receptive.
Okay. Did he make sense when he spoke with you?
Yes.
Able to carry on an intelligent conversation?
Yes.
Okay. He had good days and bad days just like everyone else. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Is it fair to say that Mr. Dahmer kept pretty much to himself?
I think it would be fair to say that, yes.
Okay. Did you think that was odd in any way?
No, I wouldn't say so.
Okay.
He was quiet and reserved. He had no problem interacting with others, but just seemed mainly to stay to himself.
I'd like to draw your attention back to about 1988, 1989. Do you recall when Mr. Dahmer was staying at the House of Correction?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Was there any marked change in his work performance at that time?
No, nothing that I noticed.
Okay. Did you have any indication that he was going through some period of great stress in his life or was unable to do his work duties?
No.
Okay. In fact, would it be fair to say that Mr. Dahmer volunteered for extra overtime while he was working there, while he was living at the House of Corrections?
Yes, he did.
Okay. Anything strange about that?
No, not really.
Actually, it's kind of nice for an employer when an employee volunteers to do overtime, isn't it?
It makes it much easier than trying to assign it to somebody who may not want it.
Getting down to different behavior on Mr. Dahmer's part. According to company records, at one point, he appears to have poured the wrong oil into a mixing vat, and the planned product had to be changed. Do you recall that incident?
Specifically, no.
Okay. If Mr. Dahmer was written up or reprimanded for that, would that be something completely out of your knowledge? Would that be the sort of thing that you wouldn't be able to believe?
No, that would be something that I would do if an incident of that nature occurred.
Okay, would it be fair to say that that sort of mistake could happen to just about anyone who's a mixer at some time?
Yes.
Okay. Other than his pattern of attendance, are you aware of any other problem that Jeff Dahmer had at work?
Nothing major at all. No.
Let's talk about Mr. Dahmer's appearance at work. Was he usually well groomed?
Usually, yes.
Okay. Come to work clean?
Yes, as much
haircut?
as I could see, yes.
Okay. Was there any indication that Mr. Dahmer was racist while you were working with him?
No indication to me, no.
Okay. How many years did you work with Mr. Dahmer as his foreman or supervisor?
It was over 5 years.
Okay. During that time, would it be fair to say that you had the opportunity to observe Mr. Dahmer closely?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. During that time, did you ever believe that Mr. Dahmer was hearing voices,
No.
having hallucinations?
No.
Was he able to carry on intelligent conversations?
Yes.
Did he ever respond to your questions in an incoherent manner?
No.
Was he ever what
Is he ever fucking drunk?
appeared to you to be irrational?
No.
Did he ever do anything that you thought was just strange or bizarre?
No.
Do you recall any inappropriate behavior on Mr. Dahmer's part?
No.
Just adding up the dates from 1986 to July of 91, you worked with him a little over 5 years, right?
Yes.
And those are 40 hours a week, 50 weeks a year pretty much, right?
Yes.
Considering that whole 5-year period, can you describe what impression was made on your mind by the conduct, actions, manner, expressions, and conversations which you observed in Mr. Dahmer?
I thought nothing unusual at all. He, as I said before, he was a satisfactory employee. Pretty much did his job and kept to himself.
Seemed like a fairly nice guy.
Yes.
No further questions.
Cross-examination?
Mr. Banning, you've indicated that there was a period of time that Mr. Dahmer volunteered for overtime work, correct?
Yes.
And you knew at the time that he was spending time at the House of Correction, correct?
I was aware of that, yes.
And would you agree then, of course, that you would know that if he volunteered for additional overtime, it was due to the fact that he knew he would be out of jail longer by working longer? Isn't that true?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever socialize with Mr. Dahmer?
Socialize?
Outside of work?
Outside of work? No.
Socialize? I've never heard that term before in my life. Oh, we're no.
You never did?
I did give him a ride home once, but as far as socializing,
Now it's coming out, sir.
no.
That would be the extent of anything socially that you did with Mr. Dahmer?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Mr. Dahmer, as I see is indicated here, has worked at the company from January of '85. Is that correct?
That's
Your
correct.
knowledge? Okay. So that was about 7 years before the time that he was actually dismissed. 6.5, 7 years, close to.
Yes.
Okay. And during that time, I think you testified that you had indicated you were a supervisor for 5 of those years?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during the period of time prior to December of '89, would you say as his supervisor that he was in pretty good attendance?
Yes, I think he had run into trouble once before that where he had gotten himself pretty far into our attendance system, but he had pulled out of that.
Okay. I have here some records of disciplinary action sheets. It indicates, you have your signature on here that indicates that on December 1st of 1989, that there was excessive absenteeism, and there was a record of written warning for that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then again, on 4/8 of '91, you have your signature again to a record of disciplinary action, indicating that he was given a verbal warning.
Oh, that one got me all
Do you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Once again, in 5/20 of 91, there was once again your signature to a record of disciplinary action giving an additional written warning for absenteeism. If I was to tell you this also exists, would you agree with that?
Yes.
And again, in 6 of 91, there was again another, you signed another record of disciplinary action giving a final warning. That's correct?
That's correct.
So in fact, there was verbal and written warnings given to Mr. Dahmer during this period of time showing a deterioration in his work, correct?
That's correct.
Excuse me, let me rephrase it. Showing a deterioration in tardiness.
Tardiness and...
Absenteeism, correct?
Yes.
They all indicate here that there was excessive absenteeism.
Yes.
Okay, so it'd be fair to say that...
Fair to say you're pretty lenient, boss. You let him come and go as he pleased.
From December of '89 through up to the point of time in July when he was eventually discharged, that there was a considerable deterioration in his attendance at work, correct?
Yes, enough to move him along in our attendance system.
Okay. Now you have certain rules at the company that you have to follow relative to attendance, or otherwise you'll be discharged, correct?
That's correct.
And these rules are on what, a point system that you have?
Yes.
And after so many points are accumulated, you're discharged?
Yes, it's progressive.
Okay. Well, then would you agree then that due to this progression of absenteeism in the record of Mr. Dahmer here, that he was fired because he failed to conform his conduct to the requirements and conditions of his employment?
He lost his job for excessive absenteeism.
Because he failed to follow the rules, correct?
I guess.
Are they trying to get it like he can't follow the rules of society? Neither?
And he failed even after warning to conform to the rules, correct?
I did speak with him every time that he was given a warning.
And so he didn't conform?
He lost his job for excessive absenteeism.
Okay.
So he was a slacker. I mean, that's something we've known the whole time. He was lazy, right?
You've indicated before that you didn't...
Unless he needed to get rid of a body, and then all of a sudden he's down in the basement with a hammer breaking up bones for days.
You find that there was anything unusual about the fact that he kept to himself. Would you have considered him a loner?
I guess you could, yes.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity as a supervisor to observe him at lunch breaks or other breaks?
Occasionally.
So do you know what he was like with any of his fellow employees at lunchtime or break time?
The few times that I did observe him at lunch or on a break, I noticed him sitting by himself.
Okay. Did you ever have occasion to believe that he was drinking on the job?
No.
Were you aware at any time that he had a skull kept in his locker?
No.
Would there have been anyone there who would have had access or been able to get access to his locker there?
I believe the company does have keys for all of the lockers.
This guy's here as an alibi. It's all coming together now, isn't it? Who placed the skull there? Who is framing Jeffrey Dahmer? We're getting to the bottom of this.
So so somebody could get in there if necessary.
If there was a reasonable cause,
Sit down, lady.
The company could open up his locker. If there was a great reason to suspect anything
Sure, that's fine.
unusual, yes.
Was there anything at all that would give you any reason to believe that Mr. Dahmer was an alcoholic from his job performance?
No.
Any time just from speaking with him that you've ever smelled alcohol in his breath?
No.
Yeah, they were leading up to that one. They were giving him a bunch of softballs. Are you aware that there's a human skull in his locker at work, sir?
No further questions.
Redirect, Mr. Romero.
And what else can you do with this guy? Lord.
Nothing further this witness, Your Honor.
You may step down, sir. Thank you. Next witness for the state.
State calls Mel Haney.
That got me. All right, new witness.
Raise your hand. Promise swear all testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth shall be done. I do. Please be seated, sir. And then would you state your name, spelling your last name, please?
Melvin Heaney, H-E-A-N-E-Y.
And Mr. Haney, you're employed at the Westside Chocolate Company, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And how are you employed there?
I'm a plant superintendent.
And how long have you been employed by the
Very good.
Westside Chocolate Company?
Approximately 22 years.
And in the course of your duties, do you make hiring and firing decisions?
I aid in those, yes, I do.
Okay. And do you take part in evaluating employees?
Yes, I do.
And in the course of your duties, approximately how many people are you responsible for supervising?
At peak season, probably from 50 to 70 people.
Okay. And when it's not peak season, how many?
It drops down lower to 45, 50.
Okay. And at some point, you came in contact with a person now known to you as Jeffrey Dahmer, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Can you identify him by where he's seated and what he's wearing in the courtroom?
Jeff is sitting right there.
Just say what he's wearing. Okay.
He's wearing a blue coat, blue blazer.
And when did you come in contact with Mr. Dahmer first?
Approximately January of 1985.
This man knows his chocolate. All right. Don't step to him with your bullshit when you're talking about chocolate, because he's gonna correct you real fucking quick.
And what were the circumstances of your coming in contact with him?
Jeff was being considered for hiring.
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
Okay. And had he worked at all at the Westside Chocolate Company before that?
You're damn
No, he
right.
didn't.
Okay. How did he come to become affiliated with the Westside Chocolate Company in January of 1985?
I believe Jeff, to the best of my recollection, worked as a temp for approximately a short period of time.
Okay. After that, was he hired by the company in a regular position?
Yes, he was.
And was he hired because his performance was good?
Yes, it was.
And then was he placed on a probationary period?
Yes.
How long did that last?
That ranges from 3 to 6 months.
Okay. Who reviewed his performance while he was on probation?
We, both his supervisor and myself did.
Okay. And did you recommend that Jeffrey Dahmer be hired after the term of his probation and get off his probationary period?
Yes, we did.
And why did you do that?
Because Jeff's performance was satisfactory, did a nice job.
And at some point you recommended that he be advanced to the top of his grade, is that correct?
Right, along with his supervisor.
Okay. During the course of your employment, other than problems about his attendance, did you ever have complaints that Mr. Dahmer performed his job inadequately?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever have complaints that he was not getting along with fellow employees?
Not anything unusual, no.
Okay. Did you ever have complaints that he was not getting along with his supervisors?
No.
During the time that you knew Mr. Dahmer working at, the period of time that you knew that Mr. Dahmer was working at the Westside Chocolate Company then would be January of '85 until July of '91, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And during that time, did you have the opportunity to make observations of Mr. Dahmer's demeanor?
Quite frequently, yes.
Do you recall him ever getting upset at work?
No, not out of the ordinary.
By not out of the ordinary, what sort of thing do
There's peak days for sure.
you mean?
Well, periodically, people always get upset with their jobs. There's little flare-ups here and there. Something isn't going right. They don't feel well, so nothing uncommon.
What would he do when he got upset?
No, nothing really. Just doggone it, you know.
Do you ever get in physical fights with anyone?
No.
He did start developing an attendance problems over the period of the past few years. Is that right?
Yes, he did.
And for those infractions, he was disciplined, correct?
According to our policy, yes.
Okay, how did he react to those disciplinary actions?
To the best of my knowledge, Jeff handled them quite adequately. He accepted them. He found no fault with them. He agreed with them and always pledged to do better.
Did you have
this motherfucker's in a fucking Corvette for sure. He's been saving up that chocolate factory money for decades. 22 years worth? You're telling me this man ain't got a fat bank account full of chocolate loot? Huh? Chocolate coins? Chocolate plunder, baby. He's got the dankest car, I guarantee you.
Any sense that he was missing work because he was having mental problems?
No, I did not.
Did you have any sense that he was missing work because he didn't understand what the requirements of his job were?
No, by no way.
Did you have any sense that he was compelled to miss work because of some sort of mental deficiency?
No.
There came a time when Jeffrey Dahmer was actually arrested at the West Side Chocolate Factory. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
What occurred when that happened?
The series of events.
Series of events that you knew about.
That I knew about? Well, I was summoned by our security guard one evening. There was 2 detectives standing down by the door, and they wished to see Jeff Dahmer. I then took them into the back room and proceeded to ask them some questions. So they basically told me that they'd like to have Jeff and they need to take him away. So I called his supervisor. The supervisor brought him down, and he talked with the 2 detectives, and they cuffed him and took him away.
Can you describe Mr. Dahmer's reaction when he was brought down for the purposes of this arrest?
Oh, I believe he was surprised.
Okay. Did he get angry? Did he strike anyone?
No.
Did he yell or scream?
No.
Did he act in any way inappropriate?
No.
Did you ever discuss this case with Mr. Dahmer?
Jeff came to me after he came back from work and mentioned it to me. He asked me if I would like to know what the reason was that he was apprehended, and I said, it's entirely up to you, Jeff.
And what did he say?
Well, he told me that he had got into a problem, that he had propositioned a young lady that he had thought was of age, and later on he found out it was a minor.
Do you have any further discussion about that?
No.
Okay. At some point, Mr. Dahmer was staying at the House of Corrections while he was...
Oh, shit. CR going to pop in here, passing the plate. Thank you, CR. Appreciate that. Love it, love it. Boom. Going to give you a little bit of Biggie. Going to give you a little bit of ODB. Came in perfect time. Tracy, CR, thank you guys for coming in here. Hit that like, guys, if you have not yet. That helps us out in the old YouTube algorithm. If you're new here, if you're lurking, hey, welcome. Thank you for being here at Publicly Buzzed Murder Church. Yeah, even though we cover a lot of stuff, a lot of trigger warning material here, we try to have a lot of fun as well. Yeah, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. Share this out to your communities. Let people know that you're watching Publicly Buzzed, Murder Church, Feral Friday, the Tuesday, Thursday show. Yeah, appreciate it, guys. Thank you all so much. Growing this thing, baby. And yeah, if you're not following Jay, make sure you're following Jay as well, The Shaming of Jay. I'm going to pop his channel right there. Boom. Should be popping up in the chat. He's going to be returning tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, after a long vacation. We're ready for some Jay, baby. I know I am. The work week last week was just crawling by because I didn't have some Jay, baby.
Was working at the West Side Chocolate Factory. Is that correct?
Yes, it was.
And do you remember any falling off in his performance at the job while he was staying there?
No, by no means.
Was there any indication that he was suffering from...
Oh, shit. Kimmy Fabuloso. Boom. Coming through with the 99 cents. Thank you. Appreciate it, Kim. Boom. Gonna hit you with a little bit. And yeah, I'm not joking. I will come and help you out. I love a good bush, especially if it's going to be for privacy from a neighbor. What's his excuse? Can you put that in there? I might have missed it. What's his excuse that he would want to cut this tree down or this bush down so all of a sudden there's a big gaping hole where you can see each other? I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Kimberly Barrett. Kimberly Barrett coming through with the $5. Boom. Thank you, Kimberly. Appreciate it. I'm going to give some hippos out there. That's what I like to see. If it was popped up. Hold on. Let me pop that up again. Boom.
I'm sober enough to know what I'm
Jim
doing,
Leahy.
and I'm
Jim
drunk
Leahy.
enough to really enjoy doing it.
I'm going to crack some beers for you, too, just because. Why the hell not? Satisfying pours this morning. Everybody's going to get some satisfying pours. A little early, but you're going to enjoy them. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Appreciate it. Boom. Tangled Crochet coming back. There we go. Filling up the bucket this morning. Boom. Tangled Crochet, $2. Passing it back around. Thank you so much, Tangled. Donna going to come through right behind. Holy shit. What's going on right now? $1.99 passing the plate. Love my murder church. Boom. It's getting out of control right now. I can't even keep up. Holy shit. We're going to be looking at some extra bells here in a moment. We're going to be looking at some extra bells. And I love a good bush. I love a good bush. Kelly Gill, $3 coming through, my hero. Holy crap, baby. You're going to get a little bit of this. You're going to get a little bit of that. And everyone's going to get some extra bells. Boom. Thank you all so much. Going crazy this morning. Out of control. It was around the air conditioner, which has been there 30 years. That's not cool. That's not cool at all, Kim. Not cool at all. And I'm just mad because it's a privacy bush. Thank you all so much. Absolutely amazing. Love it.
From some great stress while he was staying at the House of Corrections?
No.
Did he remain a good employee?
Yes, he did.
During the course of his employment, was Mr. Dahmer what you could describe as a team player?
Yes, I would say so.
Did he work well with other employees?
Yes.
Do you recall anyone being afraid of him?
No, not
Did
that I know
anyone
of.
complain that he didn't do his job?
No.
Are you aware if Mr. Dahmer ever threatened anyone while he was on the job?
Not to my knowledge.
Are you aware...
Holy shit, Caroline going to come through here with $5, hitting the plate. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Boom. Extra bells coming through. You know when extra bells is happening, you guys are being absolutely amazing.
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
Love it. Love it. Absolutely crazy. Pop that bad boy back up there again. Caroline. I'm not saying your last name because we're going to butcher it. That's why. Ciano. Caroline Ciano. Let me know if I got that right. And she leaves. She's like, I'm out of here. Thank you, Caroline. Appreciate it.
No.
Would it be fair to say that there are a number of young males under the age of 30 who work at the West Side Chocolate Company?
Yes.
Same shift as Mr. Dahmer?
Yeah.
And could some of those folks be described as attractive? Over the course of the 6.5 years, if you asked your wife, would she say they're attractive young men?
Well, I imagine.
Any complaint that Jeffrey Dahmer drugged any of them?
No, not that I know of.
Any complaint that Mr. Dahmer injured anyone there?
No.
Anyone just sort of disappear and nobody knew where they went?
No.
Caroline Ciano. Caroline Ciano.
Showing you what's been marked as safety exhibit 60. Could you tell me what that is?
It's a copy of Jeff's attendance.
And it's my understanding the defense is stipulating to admission of that? Okay, you can just set that to the side then. At some point, Mr. Dahmer had some serious attendance problems, correct?
Yes, he did.
And for that reason, he was let go. He was fired, correct?
Excessive absenteeism, yes.
Is there any other reason he was fired?
No.
During the last days of employment of the job, excepting the last day, were there any complaints about his performance and how he worked as a mixer?
Could you restate that, please?
Okay. During his last days on the job, other than his problem with his attendance, were there any other problems noted in his record regarding how Mr. Dahmer performed his duties?
Not his last days, no.
On his last day, you're the one who had to tell Mr. Dahmer he was let go, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And as a matter of fact, you became aware of the fact that he was drinking on the job, weren't you? Or you believe that?
Not really. He had a little bad breath, but...
Okay. When you told him he was fired, how did he react to you?
Well, I didn't say he was fired. I suspended him pending further investigation.
Okay. When you suspended him, how did he react?
Rather calmly.
Could you describe what he did?
When I spoke to Jeff, Jeff realized what the situation was, and at that particular time, I told him that I'd have to suspend him pending further investigation, and that he'll have to clean out his locker and leave.
And what did he do?
He cleaned out his locker, he walked down to the door, we shook hands and said goodnight.
Did his reaction seem at all inappropriate to you?
No, there comes times when we suspend people that sometimes the reaction is very calm, sometimes it's very wildish, but Jeff was very calm about it.
And would it be fair to say that Jeff's calm handling of being suspended was the same as the way he had comported himself all through his employment at the West Side Chocolate Company?
Yes, I would say that.
During the course of the 6.5 years that you worked with Jeff Dahmer, did you ever believe he was hearing voices?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever believe he was having hallucinations?
No, I didn't.
Did you ever see him go into a stupor of some sort or another?
No.
Did you ever observe that he had unconnected thoughts?
No, I didn't.
Did he ever respond to your questions in an incoherent manner?
No.
Did he ever respond to your questions in an irrational manner?
No.
Was he able to carry on a regular conversation just like you and I do?
Very much so.
Did you ever think he had any mental problems?
No.
Relying on your 6.5 years of dealing with Mr. Dahmer, what impression was made on your mind by his conduct, actions, manner, expressions, and the conversations which you had with him?
Well, Jeff was very polite, quiet, and to himself, did his job.
Any abnormalities?
No, nothing.
No further questions?
Cross-examination.
Mr. Haney indicated that you ultimately hired Mr. Dahmer because his performance was good?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And that his performance was satisfactory and he did a good job, so you continued to hire him full-time, is
Yes.
that right? Would it be fair to say that through 1990 his attendance at the West Side Chocolate Factory was good?
Yes.
Okay. We've heard testimony here that in 1991 his attendance started to falter, and that was ultimately the reason he was let go. Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you explain to us the procedure that you undertake at your company when an employee is in difficulty or has taken too many days of sick time? Can you tell us what procedure is taken, what you talk with him or her about?
What do you mean by excessive sick days?
I'm sorry?
What do you mean by excessive sick days?
Okay, well, first of all, let me back up.
Okay.
When Mr. Dahmer was missing a lot of work in 1991, what was the reason that he gave to you?
According to his attendance policy and Jeff's remarks, his call-ins, he called in sick, personal. There was no long run on sick days like 3 or 4 or 5 days. Basically, if you have 3 or 4, well, if you extend it into a week, we usually put people on leaves of absence.
Okay, so when he started to be gone too long, can you explain what type of or let me back up. Did you have any conversations with him about his tardiness?
Not directly. With me, his foreman usually would talk to him, and during my rounds, and of course, of the evening, I'd speak with Jeff, and I asked him why he was tardy, or, Jeff, it's getting a little late. I had a doggone alarm clock. So
Okay, did you have any written correspondence with him about his tardiness, or about him not being there when he was supposed to be there?
No, I didn't.
Okay. You had no indication that he was an alcoholic, is that correct?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Did you have an opportunity to observe him on his job while working at the company?
Oh, quite a bit.
Did you consider him a loner?
In today's day and age, no. Nowadays, a lot of people are to themselves, and you just kind of respect their privacy. So more and more people are quiet. And as long as Jeff was quiet and did his job, I have no problem with that.
Were you aware that he had a skull in his locker while there?
No, I wasn't.
When it was to the point where it appeared that he had been missing too much work, who was the person that spoke with him about the fact that he was in real trouble and he better watch it?
Well, we speak to people on a periodic basis. They are given 3 or 4 chances. They receive a verbal warning, then they receive a written warning, then they receive their final warning, and then ultimately they're let go.
Is he understanding that he was aware of the ramifications of missing too much work?
Only too much so, yes.
Have you ever socialized with Mr. Dahmer outside of work?
Outside of work, no, I haven't.
Have you ever been to his apartment at all?
No, I haven't.
So would you agree that Mr. Dahmer was fired because he failed to conform his conduct to the requirements and conditions of the employment agreement between him and your company?
For excessive absenteeism, yes.
No further questions.
Yeah.
Mr. Haynes, do you ever think that Jeff Dahmer couldn't help himself when he called in sick for work, that he was under some driving compulsion not to appear?
No, not really.
No further questions.
Is that it? Okay, sir, you may step down.
Would you like this document?
It's been marked, it stays.
Back to the chocolate factory. To you, sir. That man put in another 22 years.
State calls Joseph Caraha.
Swear all testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Please be seated, sir. And then would you state your name, spelling your last name, please?
Joseph Caraha, K-A-R-E-H-A.
And Mr. Caraha, how are you employed?
I am the manager of the Unicorn Bathhouse in Chicago.
And where is that located in Chicago?
3246 North Halsted Street.
And how long have you been employed there?
Almost 6 years.
Oh, Missy coming through. $5. Good Bush Fan Club. Boom. Love it, baby. Love it. Thank you, Missy, for first of all being through here today on Murder Church. You appreciate it. Boom. $5. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And in the course of that employment, are you familiar with records and documents used in the ordinary course of business of the Unicorn Bath Club?
Yes.
And are you able to identify documents that are used in the ordinary course of that business?
Yes.
Judge, I have a number of exhibits, and I ask that I can stand next to the witness when going through. Show me what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 47. Can you tell me what that is?
It's a Unicorn membership card.
And is that a membership card that your company would give out to someone who's a member there?
Yes.
And whose name appears on it?
Jeff Dahmer.
And what number appears on it?
Membership number 7799.
And how is that membership number assigned?
I'm sorry.
How is that number assigned? How do you decide who gets what number?
They're just in numerical order. Memberships given out.
And would it be fair to say that membership number 7799 was assigned to Jeff Dahmer?
Yes.
Was it assigned to anybody else?
No.
Show showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 48.
Your Honor, for purposes of the record, Mr. O'Meara has shown me Exhibits 47 through 59, and we'd be perfectly willing to short-circuit this by stipulating to the admission of each and every one of those exhibits.
Okay, but also for purposes of the record, I think we have to have some identification of what each and every exhibit is. Maybe Mr. O'Meara can just indicate that for the record.
If he wants to just indicate what they are, I have no problem with them. I don't know that it's necessary for this witness to be required to go through each of those and identify them. We've seen them. We would be in agreement as to what they are, and we have no problem with proceeding.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about getting them into the record. And for that purpose, there has to be some identification. I think that maybe quickly we could go through the identification, and then you...
Is this your first day ever in court or a trial? It has to be on the record, sir. We're getting it out there first and foremost.
Go to the particular exhibits that you need some explanation from the witness. That's what we're talking about, just speeding the process up a little bit.
Okay. Can you tell me what number 48 is?
It's a membership application.
And whose name appears?
Jeffrey L. Dahmer.
Kim, $10. Good Bush Fan Club. Fan Club, I think she meant, though. Kim, yes. We are going to mourn and probably speculate and talk about your bush for a long time. And I'm very sad that your husband cut that bush down because, again, I am a big fan of neighborhood privacy. And that's a no bueno, no go. Ha-ah! I've got one of those, actually. Say it with it. No, don't think so.
2357 South 57th
Love you, Kim.
Street,
Thank you.
West Dallas, Wisconsin.
And did you sign that?
Yes.
And was his application accepted for membership in the Unicorn Bathroom?
Yes, it was.
Okay, I'm showing you exhibits 49 through 58. Could you identify what those are?
These are our check-in cards, which show what time a customer had checked into the club and what time they had checked out, and on the specific date.
When a person checks into Unicorn Bath Club, do they have to fill out one of those cards every time?
Yes.
And does that card show what time they checked in?
Yes.
And does it also show what time they checked out?
Yes.
Will it also indicate...
Yo, Stevie!
Yes.
And does the customer have to sign in when he gets there and sign out when he leaves?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 59. Can you identify what that is?
It's an itemized list of the check-in times of member 7799 Jeffrey Dahmer.
And would that document have been generated by the Unicorn Bath Club?
Yes.
And how many dates does State's Exhibit number 59 indicate that Mr. Dahmer was there?
It shows 10 visits in a one-year period.
Okay. And would those dates correspond with State's Exhibit 49 through 58?
Yes.
All right. And what dates were Mr. Dahmer there at the Unicorn Bath Club?
Membership was purchased on March 31st, 1990. His first check-in was on 4/1 of 90, then again on 4/8/90, then again on 4/13/90, then again on 4/21/90, 6/30/90, 9/22/90. Once again on 9/22/90, he had checked out and checked back in. 9/23/90, 2/4/91, and 2/9/91.
And State's Exhibit 59 also indicates the times and the length of times that he was there on each of those dates, correct?
Yes.
During the time that your records indicate that Mr. Dahmer was a member of the Unicorn Bath Club. Did you have any personal contact with him that you can recall?
No, I didn't.
Were you aware of any reports of drugging of other patrons at the Unicorn Bath Club during this time?
No incidents were ever reported to me.
Any dead bodies appear in the Unicorn Bath Club during this time?
No.
Any indication that anyone was striking someone over the head or rendering them unconscious in the Unicorn Bath Club during this time?
No.
No further questions.
George Ross? Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Karaha, is that how you say your name?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Karaha, you're the manager of the Unicorn Bath Club.
Right.
How long have you been the manager?
I've been the manager since October of '91. Previous to that, I was the assistant manager.
Okay. So you were not the manager of this club during any of Mr. Dahmer's visits, is that right?
No. No.
So you were not. Okay. And you're here because you're the manager and the district attorney asked you to produce these records, and you're here to produce the records of your club, right?
Right.
Not because you had any contact with Mr. Dahmer personally?
No.
Right? Okay. Could you tell us on March 31st of 1990 when Mr. Dahmer came and filled out an application, and then he apparently returned the following day on the 1st of April 1990, and he would have to fill out a form, and that form has now been marked, the first one that he filled out on April 1st. What's the exhibit number of that?
49.
Okay, exhibit 49. Would that be the first thing he would have done on April 1st when he arrived at this club?
After purchasing the membership?
Right. Well, he purchased the membership the day before.
Right. Yes, this is the first thing.
He came back on the 1st, and he would have had to fill out that form and sign it, indicating what time he got there.
Right.
Now, are there baths there?
Yes.
And would he get a towel or something?
Yes.
Okay. And he has the option of whether to get a room or not get a room.
Right.
Do you maintain any records of who he might have met there?
No.
So you have no idea on any of those 10 occasions he was there whether he had any interaction with anyone?
No, I don't.
Okay. And you don't know if he left with anyone, do you?
No.
Okay. You don't know what he did while he was there?
No, I don't.
Okay. And that would be a matter of some privacy that you would not concern yourself with?
Right.
Fair? Okay. You were asked to bring or to supply these records relative to Mr. Dahmer and his visits at the Bath Club. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did the district attorney's office or the police department ask you to produce records relative to the visits of any other individual to the Unicorn Bath Club?
No.
During this period of time between the end of March of 1990 and the 9th of February of 91, what was the average number of people that were at that bath club at any given time?
I would say the average number on a daily basis.
Right.
Between 75 and 150 people.
That's all.
Yeah, this is in the Appalachia too now. This is, I don't know exactly where this one is, but this is one of those crazy snake churches for a few thousand Christians that prove their faith by taking up serpents during church services remain in the United States today, but their unusual and dangerous practice has put them at odds with their neighbors, the wider church, and sometimes the law. Just gonna, for anybody that hasn't or is not familiar with this being a thing, yeah, they get wild. It's more like a party and a show, baby. Like I'd go to document it. I'm not a man with a gun strapped on your hip, no license needed, and watch a little bit of serpent dancing.
So pastors to snake bites.
Look at this snake. He's freaked the fuck out. This They out there. They out there.
No questions, Judge.
You may step down, sir.
State calls Detective Don Yaki. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
All right, we made it through another video. Let's see where we're going here next. Number 42, folks. Week 15. We're putting the work in, okay? Right now we have Lieutenant Donald Yaki, also Lieutenant Scott Schaefer, and then Officer Gary Temp. We got about another hour here with this video. Let's see what else it says here. Well, never mind. All right. I'll hit y'all with another stinger real quick. I like to do that in between the videos. And we will be right back with more Murder Church. Let's go.
You solemnly swear all the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I do. Please be seated, sir. And, sir, would you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Donald Yaki, Y-O-C-K-E-Y.
Got that one right, Yaki motherfuckers.
And how were you employed?
For the City of West Dallas Police Department.
And how long have you been so employed?
19 years.
And what rank have you attained?
I'm a lieutenant.
And
Before we start this one out, Austin Rain's coming through. Sit down the plate, passing the Rattler. Catch. Oh, shit. I need a snake sound effect's what I need right now. Damn.
I'm telling you like it is, baby.
Son of a bitch! Oh, man, I shot Marvin in the face. Why the fuck did you do that?
were you so employed on April 4th, 1988?
Yes, I was.
And did you have occasion on that date to come in contact with the person you now know as Jeffrey Dahmer?
Yes, I did.
Can you identify him by where he's seated in the courtroom and what he's wearing?
We'll stipulate that.
Very well.
Okay. What were the circumstances of that meeting?
Our department had received a complaint from Mr. Flowers that he had been robbed while he was at Mr. Dahmer's house.
And how did you know it was Mr. Dahmer's house?
Mr. Flowers had taken another officer there the night before and pointed out the house.
And how would Mr. Dahmer have learned about this fact?
At that time, he wasn't home, and a referral notice was left at his house telling him that we wanted to talk to him.
And did he arrive at the West Dallas Police Department?
Yes, he did.
And when he came there, did you place him in custody?
No, we did not.
What did you do?
We talked to him.
CR. Boom. Hold on real quick. Handing over the Cobra to someone else. Holy shit. Keep it. Keep it. Thank you, CR.
Him about the complaint that Mr. Flowers had made.
And what did Mr. Dahmer tell you?
He basically admitted to everything that Mr. Flowers had said except the part about taking his money and his chain, gold chain.
Did he admit to drugging Mr. Flowers?
No, he denied doing that.
Well, why don't you tell me as closely as you can exactly what Mr. Dahmer said?
He had stated that...
Do you need to refer to your notes?
Yes, if I may.
Okay. Do you have an objection?
Go ahead.
Okay. Go ahead.
He had stated that he had met Mr. Flowers at a bar on Saturday night, early Sunday morning, and he saw that this party was having trouble getting his car started, so Jeff said that he invited him to his house. Once they got to the house, he started drinking, mentioned Bailey's Irish Cream and some coffee. Eventually they were drinking Bailey's Irish Cream straight out of the bottle. They both finally fell asleep. Mr. Dahmer stated that they were both very drunk. Mr. Dahmer stated that he woke up on Sunday morning around 9 a.m. and he wanted to get Mr. Flowers out of the house before his grandmother woke up. He didn't want to upset his grandmother. He stated that Mr. Flowers could barely stand, and he looked in Mr. Flowers' wallet and he saw that he only
When was
had
it that Mr. Flowers could barely stand? When during his discussion did he say that took place? Would that have been the morning afterwards?
That was the morning at 9 a.m., yes.
Okay.
That Mr. Flowers was still pretty drunk.
Okay, what happened then?
He said that he only saw $20 bills in Mr. Flowers' wallet, and he knew he wanted to take Mr. Flowers to the bus, and he knew the bus driver would not change a 20, so Mr. Dahmer gave him $1, walked him to the bus stop on 57th and Lincoln, and waited with him for the bus to come and made sure he got on the bus. And that is the last time he saw him.
And did he continue that the reason he walked him to the bus stop was to make sure he got on the bus because he was so drunk he wasn't sure he'd be able to?
Correct.
Was Mr. Dahmer at all hesitant when he told you this story?
Not at all.
Did you
Boom, 64-64. Yes, concurrent viewers matching the likes, and those are good numbers as well, as Murder Church continues to soar, baby. Let's go. Thank you all so much. Seriously, this is amazing.
Yes, I do.
At any time when you were talking with him, did he give incoherent answers to your questions?
No.
Did he give irrational answers to your questions?
No, he did not.
Did you believe he was the victim of delusional thinking?
No.
Did you ever think he was hearing voices?
No.
Did you ever believe he was having hallucinations?
No.
About how long do you think you talked with him?
20 minutes to 30 minutes, no more.
During your 19 years of being a police officer, detective, and now lieutenant, have you had the occasion to observe folks who you believe were mentally ill?
Yes.
Have you had occasion to take people to Milwaukee County Mental Health or some other hospital because you believed they were suffering from mental illness?
Yes.
And have them committed there?
Yes.
Approximately how many times?
I'd have to say several dozen times.
Okay. Based on those experiences and your observations of Mr. Dahmer on April 4th, 1988, did you believe he was suffering from any mental illness?
And I'm going to object to the form of the question. It has to be asked pursuant to due today, and that's not appropriate. But no finding that anybody can make a diagnosis of mental illness.
I'm not asking for diagnosis, Your Honor.
Now, my objection's noted.
Yep, let me...
Well, Boyle, we know.
Just a minute, here. My case. Let me have the question read down.
Question, based on your experience and your observations of Mr. Dahmer on April 4th, 1988, do you believe he was suffering from any mental illness?
Court's going to sustain the objection. Ask counsel to rephrase the question.
Okay. Just briefly, Your Honor, 2 pages before, I believe the question that I asked was found acceptable by the court.
Well.
I have the question. Based on your years of experience, what impression was made on your mind by the conduct, actions, manner, expressions, and conversations that you observed of this defendant?
I felt there was no problem with him. I felt he was normal.
Now, Lieutenant Yaki, on that date, Jeffrey Dahmer gave his address as 2357 South 57th Street in West Dallas. Is that correct?
Yes.
How far is the Mai Kai Lounge from that? Roughly.
Within 2 or 3 blocks.
Okay. How far is 55th and Lincoln from that?
3 or 4 blocks.
Is it less than 3 or 4 blocks?
I would say it's closer to 3 blocks from there.
And the Mai Kai Lounge?
I believe the Mai Kai is on 56th. I'm not sure.
Okay.
56th and Lincoln, right on the corner.
Okay. What 100 block would Lincoln be, South Lincoln?
That starts to 2300.
Okay. No further questions?
Lieutenant, as part of the official records of your department, somebody from the transport company was contacted to find out who the name of a driver was that might have had the route in West Dallas toward County General Hospital, and there was going to be somebody getting back to the department to see how it was that Mr. Flowers got from the Dahmer residence to Milwaukee County Hospital, right?
Correct.
Objection calls for hearsay.
I don't think that called for hearsay. Objection's overruled.
Right?
That's correct.
Were you ever successful in finding out how it was Mr. Flowers got from the Dahmer residence to the hospital?
No, we were not.
But you attempted to?
Yes.
Did you ask Mr. Dahmer how it was that Mr. Flowers got from wherever he was to the Milwaukee County Hospital?
No, I never asked him that.
Did he tell you that he put him on a bus, though?
Yes.
Did you ask him where he was planning, he thought Flowers was planning on going when he put him on the bus?
No, I never asked him that.
Mr. Flowers has no independent recollection of how it was that he got to the hospital?
That's correct.
Your office kept in touch with Mr. Flowers and gave him all of the updates he had to have in order to make him aware of what your investigation was showing?
Correct. We were basically contacting Mr. Flowers. We needed his medical records at the time.
You got his medical records?
Eventually, yes.
You told him what his records reflected, correct?
Yes.
And they were minimal detective levels of whatever?
Correct.
What were the minimum detectable levels of whatever? What was it?
Your Honor, this is beyond the scope of this witness's ability to answer. It calls for medical testimony. There's a right way to get this in, but it's not through this witness.
Okay.
Counsel,
your objection is that it calls for expert testimony? Is that what you're saying?
He's asking this witness to talk about what the doctor's findings were, and I don't think this is the witness to do it.
Uh-oh. Tangled Crochet is going to gift out a membership. Who's going to get it? Joannie B. Did I say that? Am I saying that one wrong? Joannie? Is it Joannie B? Whoever it is, I got a membership, baby. She's always in here. Thank you, Joannie. I don't think I'm saying that. I feel like I'm not saying that. I feel like we've had this conversation before. Seabolt, thank you for coming in here. Appreciate it. And yeah, let's throw out the beers. It's almost noon. Hell, we'll throw out a few beers, a few liquor drinks, a few probably nothings, and a pill bottle randomly. I'll take the pill bottle out of here, actually. Please put this on slow speed after Murder Church. My to-do list is cleaning windows, so a glamorous life. Such a glamorous life. Told hubby I was watching church on YouTube. Love it. Yeah, keep her going. Everybody that comes in here every Sunday and keeps this rolling is hilarious in the chat, and it's the best. Thank you all so much. Seriously, I love it. Yeah, and we are almost at 70 likes. As soon as we hit that, I think we're already there. I think it's usually rolling. I've hit past that after the fact, but during an actual live stream, I think that we're right now at an all-time high on likes. And concurrent viewers, I think we've hit into the 70s before, but this is still like a steady 60, 61 hanging out. You guys are the fucking best. Seriously, can't believe it.
Okay, then your objection is that it calls for hearsay.
Yes.
Okay, let me have the question.
Joni. It's Joni. Joannie. Joni. Of course it's Joni. Okay. I'm leaving. I'm retiring. And now it sounds so normal. Joni. Because that's a normal name. Man, Joni, what you doing? Joni. No, Joannie. I just made a new name.
What was the minimal detectable of whatever? What was it?
Oh.
I don't think I understand that. Does anybody else?
Well, he's reading his reports. Counsel asked if he could read his reports. I said he could read his reports. I'm going right from his reports. 4/16/88. This lieutenant, I think they're your reports, aren't they, Lieutenant?
Yes, I typed that on 4/16/88.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he show me where that language appears in the report? That might help me as far as ruling on.
Show it to the judge.
Well, the part of whatever doesn't appear there, but
you're looking at 4/16/88.
Joni B.
The detective has directed my attention. Just let me read that entry.
Oh, goodness.
Well, question here is, what's the matter asserted? If we're trying to prove the truth of what those of some medical tests, this is not the way to do it. On the other hand, if we're trying to explain what the West Allis Police Department subsequently did or did not do, then I think it's perfectly appropriate.
That's what I'm doing it for.
If it's for the latter purpose, Mr. Boyle, the objection is overruled.
Tell us what you meant when you put down, quote, minimal detectable level, quit quote, was found, Lieutenant.
that I took off of the medical report. That's exactly what it said on the medical report.
Well, level of what?
Of what they tested for. I'd have to refer to the medical report.
Dinner like dinner.
As a result of what you found from reading that medical report, you contacted Mr. Flowers?
That's correct.
And you told him what?
Oh, God.
That I told him where our investigation was going, and because of his medical report, there wasn't much we could do at this time. And he stated that he understood and would contact his own attorney to see if anything else could be done.
Did you ever hear from him again?
No, we did not.
Okay. Is there any reason, based upon anything you knew at that time, that caused you to talk to Mr. Dahmer again?
No, there wasn't.
That's all. Thanks. Oh, by the way, in the course of your investigation, did you talk to his grandmother?
I did not talk to his grandmother.
Did anybody in your department?
I don't believe so.
That's all. Thank you.
Is there further direct examination of this witness? Okay, you may step down, thank you.
Moving through them now, baby. Then we got to go back in time to Fossil, but I'm not sure. That might be the beginning of next week. Might be Fossil. Lord.
Tell me where I'll testimony you're about to give this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated, sir. State your name, spelling your last name, please.
Scott Schaefer, S-C-H-A-E-F-E-R.
Whoa, calm down, Scott. Back up away from the mic, sir.
Are you employed as a City of Milwaukee police officer?
Yes, I am.
And what rank do you have?
Currently a lieutenant of detectives.
How long have you been employed by the Milwaukee Police Department?
Since 1974.
Did there come a time on September 27, 1988 that you were at work in the Milwaukee Police Department headquarters?
Yes.
Where is that building?
Right. You're right. Fossil's taking this thing over.
Did there come a time that you were aware that an investigation was underway in connection with a sexual assault on a 13-year-old Laotian young man?
Yes, I did.
He is a minor, and for reasons of protection of his name, he has been referred to in these proceedings as SS. Would you continue to refer to him? The jury is familiar with his full name.
Yes.
What information did you receive, basically, that caused you to become involved in the investigation?
At approximately 12:20 a.m. on September 27, 1988, officers Robert Enters and Gary Temp brought SS into the sexual assault unit of the Milwaukee Police Department, where I interviewed SS. The young man informed me that he had been walking on the street and a man had offered him some money to pose for some photos. He agreed and accompanied the man to his apartment. SS stated that while in the apartment, the man made a mixture of some coffee and a cream-type liquid which tasted like chocolate, and that he drank some of that liquid. Stated that he posed for some photos for the man, and that the man wanted him to lower his underwear lower during the photos, and the man took his hand and lowered SS's underwear, and at that time SS's penis came out of his underwear, and the man grabbed onto SS's penis, saying that the pose would be sexier that way. He stated that he took his penis out of the man's hand and put it back in his underwear, and that the man then took another photo.
And did he tell you then there came a time that he left the premises?
Yes, he did. He stated that he left the man's apartment and that upon leaving he felt fuzzy like a drunk man, he stated. And he subsequently went to Mount Sinai Samaritan Hospital, where he was treated for an overdose.
And had officers gone out to the home and then with him gone to the apartment building where this took place and identified the particular apartment with his assistants?
That is correct.
And those uniformed officers from the manager had secured an individual's name and the location of his employment. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And you had information that that man was Jeffrey Dahmer, that he was employed at a near West Side chocolate factory, and that he was a third shift worker. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And armed with that information, did you leave the Vice Squad offices and go to that West Side chocolate factory?
Yes, but prior to leaving, I showed SS a number of photographs, including the person who had been identified by the apartment manager, and SS positively identified Jeffrey Dahmer as the person who had taken him to his apartment and taken these photos.
This is what you refer to in police work as a photo array, is that correct?
Yes.
And you had Mr. Dahmer's picture on file from an earlier case where he had indecently exposed himself?
That is correct.
Did you then go to that West Side chocolate factory with the officers?
Yes, I did.
Did there come a time that Mr. Dahmer was brought to you by employees at the factory?
Yes.
And what, if anything, transpired when did you recognize him from the pictures you had already shown the Laotian boy?
Yes, I did.
And what, if anything, any conversation occurred between you and Mr. Dahmer at that point?
At that point, I asked him if he was Jeffrey Dahmer. He stated yes, and at that time I placed him under arrest.
And do you see Jeffrey Dahmer in court right now, the man you arrested that night?
Yes, I do.
And that was the early morning hours of September 27, 1988, is that correct?
Approximately 2:10 a.m., I believe, yes.
What, if anything, did he do when you told him that he was under arrest? Did he do or say?
Well, he was placed into handcuffs and taken outside of his place of employment. At that time, a conveyance wagon was called for, and he became very nervous. He was upset that he was arrested at work. He asked me why I came to his place of employment. He was going to lose his job. He asked me if I had informed people at his place of employment why he was being arrested. We had a small conversation outside of what the accusations were. He knew why he was being arrested. He was very concerned as to his employer not knowing why he had been taken into custody.
After that, did the wagon arrive to take him, the wagon officers take him into custody?
Yes.
And where did you go from there?
I went back to my office. The wagon conveyors took Mr. Dahmer to the lockup facility, the city jail, and booked him, and thereafter brought him down to my office.
And this is your office in the Vice Squad, is that true?
That is correct.
And this was a sexual assault case because the lad was 13 years of age?
Yes.
Did you have conversation with Mr. Dahmer at that time?
Yes, I did.
Did you explain his constitutional rights to him?
Yes, I did.
Did he indicate whether or not he understood them?
He stated he fully understood and was willing to talk with me without an attorney present.
Can you tell us what was said then by you and by him in the conversation that followed?
Well, we had a question and answer type conversation. I again reiterated the accusations made by the young boy, and Mr. Dahmer gave me responses to the questions.
You have those thereafter or shortly thereafter, you wrote up the basic elements of that conversation, did you not?
Later that morning, yes.
Do you have a copy of that write-up with you now?
Yes, I do.
Would you read that write-up to the jury?
States, regarding the offense, Dahmer states that he offered the Oriental victim $50 to pose for some pictures. He has no idea how old the victim is because, quote, it's so hard to tell, end of quote. At no time did he ask how old he was or how far he was in school. Does not recall the victim telling him he was a freshman. That's in quote, freshman. He went with the victim to his apartment, that being Dahmer's apartment. Once there, he took 2 photos of the victim, but the photos were not sexually explicit. He and the victim were drinking out of the same cup while they were in the apartment. He, meaning Dahmer, had put coffee and Bailey's Irish cream into the cup. The cup is the same cup which he always uses to drink coffee from. He also places about 4 of his prescribed medication in with the coffee. He does not wash the coffee cup because he is generally the only person to drink from the cup. When he shared the coffee mixed with the Baileys with the victim, he did not add any of his pills. States that in no way did he intentionally drug the victim. If the victim had any of the drug in his system, it was because of previous use of the cup and not washing the cup. He denies ever touching the victim's penis, even while having the victim pose for the photographs. Denies kissing the victim's stomach. Questions how the victim could be so coherent if the victim was supposedly drugged. He was fine when he left the apartment. Gave the boy $50, and he had the $50 when he left the apartment. And then it's signed Jeffrey Dahmer, dated 9/27/88, 4:55 a.m. And that was signed after I read this verbatim to Mr. Dahmer with him reading along.
Hey, Dixie, he's going to be on national TV now.
Thereafter, did you undertake to secure his consent to return to his apartment and secure items of evidence?
That would have been prior to the written statement. I had talked to him but had not taken a written statement.
Would you identify what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 1 or 61? Can you tell us what that is?
Exhibit number 61 is a typewritten form which I typed up on September 27th, 1988, after asking Mr. Dahmer for consent to search his apartment for the items which would be needed for evidentiary value in this case.
Did he sign that consent?
Yes, he did.
Is the hour entered, the date time that it was signed, the consent was signed or prepared at least?
Yes, directly under Mr. Dahmer's signature is typed in September 27th, 1988, 3:05 a.m.
How long had you talked to Mr. Dahmer after you returned to the police administration building and he was brought into your vice squad offices? For how long did that conversation take place?
Approximately 20 minutes.
Was it at that time then, did you go out to follow up on the consent?
Yes, after he had signed the consent form.
Do you recall if you secured a key from him or from the manager at some point?
Mr. Dahmer accompanied us. He supplied the key and went with us to the apartment.
And where was that apartment building?
It was located at 808 North 24th Street, apartment number 204.
And he accompanied you then into the particular apartment when you went there?
Yes, he did.
And did you, or who was with you? The same team of officers, if you recollect?
Officers Enters and Temp, who had initiated the investigation, along with my supervisor at that time, who was Lieutenant Lawrence Gottiger.
And did you undertake, while at the apartment, to search for certain items to which he had consented for a search to be conducted?
It wasn't a search per se. Mr. Dahmer told us where these items would be found in the apartment.
Read to the jury the particular items for which you were looking.
Number one item would be 2 photographs of one SS, the victim in this offense. Item number 2 would be 1 cup, brown in color, which was the cup which SS stated they had drank the coffee and Irish cream mixture from. Number 3 was 1 bottle of Bailey's Irish cream. Number 4, prescription drugs. And number 5, 1 Polaroid camera.
Did you thereafter return to did you also pick up some other drugs while you were there?
Yes, some prescription drugs were confiscated.
Did you thereafter return to the building, the police administration building, with those items and cause inventory forms to be prepared by yourself and file those items with the property room at the Milwaukee Police Department?
Yes, I did.
Do you have those inventory, a copy of those inventory forms with you at the stand?
Yes, I do.
If it'll save any time, I'll stipulate to all of this. Let counsel move it all in evidence without any objection. That the items they're mentioning that they have there were in fact taken pursuant to that consensual search.
Damn right, Cam. Damn right. I'm gonna give Cam right now one of these right here because she
telling
is.
you like it is, baby.
Damn right.
Do you recognize the boxes or what's in there? Have you had a chance to examine it?
Yes, I recognize it.
And what is in there?
Item number 2 on inventory number 1225725. This is a Polaroid Spectra camera, which was confiscated on the couch of Mr. Dahmer's living room.
And what is the bottle of liquor to your left? What item is that?
This would be the same inventory number. Item number 3, it's a bottle of Dunphy's cream liqueur. This was recovered on the top of the refrigerator in Mr. Dahmer's kitchen.
And what is the exhibit number on the camera box and the liquor bottle that we've marked for the purposes of this proceeding?
The camera is listed on State's Exhibit number 42. The Irish cream is listed on State's Exhibit number 43.
Would you examine State's Exhibit 44 and 45, compare that to the inventory numbers, and can you identify to the jury what are in those 2 bags?
State's Exhibit number 44 is a paper bag which is the same inventory
Paper bag.
previously referred to. Item number
Bag.
5, which would be 1 brown cup. State's Exhibit number 45 is a paper bag. Contained therein
Paper
is
bag.
another brown cup. These were recovered on the kitchen counter in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment.
These would hold the potion,
You
folks.
examine what has been marked as inventory number 1225725, item number 6. That inventory appears to have been sealed
Package got some weight on it,
initially
son.
by you and then reopened by someone else. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And can you identify to the jury at least what the bag contained when you packaged it initially?
Okay, State's Exhibit number 46, when it was initially packaged, was the same inventory number, item number 6, and this contained numerous male-oriented nude-type magazines. These were recovered in a dresser drawer in Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment.
Asking you to examine what has been marked as State's Exhibit number 41. If you compare it to the inventory number on your reports, and can you identify to the jury what is contained in State's Exhibit number 41?
State's Exhibit number 41 is a clear plastic baggie. Contains 2 photos of the victim, SS, which were taken by Mr. Dahmer. And these were recovered in the same dresser drawer as item number 6, being the male magazines.
You had met the young Laotian boy, is that correct?
That is correct. I spoke with him
Don't need no stinking gloves. Are you kidding me?
for about 35 minutes prior to...
That last exhibit, the pictures, is that in fact 2 pictures?
Yes, it is.
And you put it in a cellophane bag with one picture facing outside on one direction and the other back-to-back facing the other way, is that correct?
That's correct.
Did you recognize from your contact with the Laotian boy earlier in the early morning hours of September 27, 1988, did you recognize who was depicted in those 2 pictures?
Yes, that was SS.
The 13-year-old Laotian boy?
Correct.
We're not going to identify a particular drug or drugs, but you also seized certain particular prescription drugs at the scene, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And you had reason to believe that the young man from the hospitalization had reason to believe that he had ingested a drug which caused him to pass out, is that true?
Yes, I had the pharmaceutical name for the active ingredient in that drug, yes.
All right. Did you undertake then to recover certain pills, prescription pills, from Mr. Dahmer's apartment?
Yes, I did.
And did you inventory and package those in that package?
These were confiscated by me. They were packaged by police officer Diane Kotowitz, who was the narcotic officer in the office at that time.
And you listed those drugs on your inventory form, is that correct?
That is correct.
Was that a separate inventory you prepared for the drugs?
Yes, that inventory was prepared by Officer Kotowitz.
Let's mark that inventory. Could we please, the 2 inventories, in fact. The State's Exhibit number 63, a copy of the Milwaukee Police Department inventory listing the things to which you've testified other than the prescription drugs.
That is correct.
And State's Exhibit number 64 lists the prescription drugs that were recovered. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Right. You file those in separate places. Is that correct? Are drugs kept separately generally?
Yes, always.
Inventory system?
Always.
And did Mr. Dahmer identify those particular drugs as the drugs that he indicated had inadvertently been consumed by the boy?
I don't recall if he stated those were the drugs or not. I recognize them.
From the report you had received from the hospital, from your experience as a Vice Squad officer, you recognize those particular pills as such as would be involved in the incident?
That's correct.
Did there come a time that you spoke again with Mr. Dahmer, either as you were there at the apartment or the next day in another office?
Well, I spoke with him continuously from the time he was arrested in my office, at his apartment briefly, and then when we went back to the Vice Squad, I spoke with him for a short period, and that is when I wrote the written statement that he read and signed.
Right. And did you have any further discussions with him that you haven't talked to other than later on that morning?
Not that evening. Later on that morning, I did, yes.
Was that in the district attorney's office?
Correct.
And you were over there to prepare certain charges to be brought against the defendant, Mr. Dahmer, is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of that complaint that you initially caused to be filed then?
Yes, I do.
Could we have that marked as an exhibit? I mean the actual district attorney's complaint. Do you have that?
Yes, I do. You have a copy of it.
You then, collecting your papers, you then went to the district attorney's office to pursue a particular charge or charges against the defendant, Mr. Dahmer, in connection with the incident. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
And from your discussion with the young lad, you appreciated that it occurred on September 26, 1988, although the arrest then followed on September 27, 1988.
That is correct.
Right? As part of the process, you appear before an assistant district attorney who reviews the case, determines what charges to be brought. Is that true?
That's correct.
And was the defendant with you at any time during that discussion or while the district attorney's office was reviewing the matter?
Yes, he was. After the initial conference with the district attorney, Mr. Dahmer was taken into the district attorney's office for a statement.
And were you present during that statement?
Yes, I was.
And was that a statement to an assistant district attorney?
Yes.
Did you make notes thereafter as to what was said in that meeting?
I filed an additional supplementary report as to any other information which was not consistent with his original statement. Yes, I did.
And have you a copy of that with you in the court?
Yes, I do.
Would you present
Bigs. You gonna say Bigs again for us, sir? Bigs. Brown Bigs.
Would you identify that which was marked as State's Exhibit 66?
State's Exhibit 66 is a copy of a Milwaukee Police Department PO 15A, which is a supplementary report on an investigation.
Was that report prepared by you?
Yes, it's in my handwriting.
And was it prepared subsequent to the appearance in the district attorney?
Oh shit, MJ coming through here. What's going on, MJ? Been here lurking, passing the plate. Kaylin sent me. Thank you very much, MJ. Appreciate it. I'm going to give you a little bit of love real quick. Boom. I'm a bad man. Thank you, MJ. Seriously, appreciate you being here. Appreciate the 10. And yeah, lurkers are welcome here as well, folks. Everyone, this one is going to be winding down. Probably be the last video for today. Got about 22 minutes left of it. Thanks everyone for coming through here. This has been a record murder church. 76 likes. I think that's the most we've ever had during an actual live murder church. Yeah, thank you all so much. We'll be back live here. I'll be back here live Tuesday doing something. And yeah, if you're not subbed up, please sub up. Hit the 3 little dots on the side. Make sure all notifications are turned on so you don't miss anything, whether it's videos, live streams, or community posts, which are coming pretty much all the fucking time. Make sure you're following on Twitter/X. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you all so much.
His office on September 27, 1988.
Yes, it was.
And would you read that to the jury?
On Tuesday, September 27th, 1988, at approximately 11 a.m., in the district attorney's office, Jeffrey Dahmer was advised of his constitutional rights. The state said he understands and wishes to cooperate. Regarding the offense, Dahmer states that he intended on taking photos of the victim's penis but he, quote, didn't want to press it, end of quote. When he was lowering the victim's underwear, the victim's penis came out, but he did not touch it. Admits that he wanted to have sexual contact with the victim, but didn't want to push it. Admits to kissing the victim's abdomen, saying that he made that, quote, contact, end of quote.
And you added that because it seemed to be a supplement with his earlier statement that had been in the Vice Squad offices when you interviewed him shortly after his arrest. Is that correct?
Correct.
With respect to the formal complaint, did you sign that complaint? It's been marked as an exhibit already. What exhibit number is that?
That's State Exhibit number 65. Yes, I signed that complaint.
And that carries 2 charges, does it not?
Yes, it does.
What are those 2 charges?
Second-degree sexual assault and enticing a child for immoral purposes.
And by state law, the district attorney's office must place within that complaint the penalty for each count. Is that true?
Yes.
And does that complaint state such what the penalty is?
Yes, it does.
And what does it state for each count being the penalty?
Upon conviction of the charges listed in counts 1 and 2, Class C felonies, the maximum possible penalty is a fine of not more than $10,000 or imprisonment for not more than 10 years or both as to each count.
Are you aware that the defendant eventually pled guilty to both those counts?
Yes, I am.
Do you recall seeing the defendant after the appearance in the district attorney's office on September 27, 1988?
No.
Keeping in mind the contacts you had with him throughout those hours on September 27, 1988, did you notice any delusions from your contact with the defendant, that he was suffering from any delusions?
No, I did not.
Did he indicate he was suffering from any hallucinations?
No.
Was he incoherent in any way in your conversations with him?
No, he was very responsive.
Did he respond to your questions and clearly appear that he understood what you were asking of him?
Yes.
Were his responses rational?
Yes, they were.
Was he in any way unable to relate one thought to another?
No, not at all.
Do you observe him having anything like racing thoughts?
No.
Did he appear to you to be in any type of a stupor at any time?
No, he did not.
Did he appear out of touch with reality in any way?
No.
From your knowledge gained from the hours you were with him on September 27, 1988, from the observations you made at that time, from the actions you saw, his conversations and manner and appearances as you saw him that day, did you form any opinion as to whether or not he was sane or insane?
Well, I'm going to object to the form of that question. It's an inappropriate way to ask it. We've been through this.
Well, okay, I think there's a better way to ask it, and the court is going to ask Mr. McCann to rephrase the question.
Did you make what observations did you make of him? What was your conclusion as to whether or not he appeared normal to you?
That same objection in a specific way to ask it.
Oh, I think that's close enough to the recommended form.
He appeared normal. He was quiet. He didn't volunteer any information or conversation, but he was responsive to questions. And
if it pleases,
that does happen.
I would ask that while I mark the officer's initial interview, that the exhibits, I would move into evidence all the exhibits and request that the 2 pictures be published to the jury.
Okay, let's one step at a time. Any objection to receiving the exhibits and evidence, Mr. Boyle?
I have no objection to receiving anything in evidence.
Received.
Mark, I do have an objection to having the pictures published. And it's immaterial and irrelevant to the matter before this court.
Oh, I haven't asked for argument. You have an objection. Let me look at the photographs.
Just the publishing of the 2 pictures.
Well, my inclination is to sustain the objection. However, the state wants to be heard. I'd be glad to hear the state's argument.
No.
Do I understand they're received into evidence?
They're received into evidence, but they are not to be published, at least at this time.
You talked and indeed read from a portion of the documentation that was prepared that morning by you. Is that correct?
yes, I have.
You read the initial statement that he gave you in the early morning hours of September 27, the first statement, the statement before the district attorney's office. Is that true?
Yes.
And now that has now been marked as an exhibit, has it not?
Yes, it has.
And what is that exhibit?
State Exhibit number 67.
If it please the court, I would move that also into evidence, State Exhibit 67.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at the same time here. What, is there any objection, Mr. Boyle? No, sir. Received.
That's all.
Is now Lieutenant Chief?
Yes, sir.
How long has that been the situation?
Since April of 1991.
So it's clear that when police officers are trying to do their job, one of the things they really want to do is accumulate evidence in the fastest, most expeditious way with a minimum amount of paperwork. And one of the ways of doing that is asking a defendant if you can do a search without having to get a search warrant.
Correct.
Helps you do your job. It keeps you from having to go apply to a court and go through all of that kind of rigmarole, correct?
Correct.
Rigmarole.
It's helpful to you to get it done as quickly as possible.
No mouth jobs today.
But
even though we missed a Fosdal, we're going to go back and start with one last Fosdal video next week. Mouth jobs may return.
It's absolutely clear.
It's very possible.
When you ask for that, and it's a limited request and a limited granting, you've got to do what has been approved, right? What has been approved by the defendant in the way of the consent. In other words, if he consents to you searching his car, you can't go to his house, right?
That's correct. It would be the same with a search warrant granted by the judge.
Sure. So what you really wanted to do was, you know from the youngster involved that there were certain things in order to put your case together, you wanted to go over there and get the items necessary to put the case together and make sure that the evidence supported the charge, right?
That is correct.
Right. And the defendant was cooperative in that regard.
Yes, he was. He voluntarily
Volunteered. Not only that, you typed it up and had him sign it so there'd be no question later about somebody saying that it wasn't done the right way, correct?
That was for my own protection.
Sure it is. And the defendant,
Sure it is.
by the same token, in the final analysis, made admissions to you and corroborated what the youngster said about some of his conduct, right? Like the kissing of the stomach area. He initially had denied that. He later admitted it, right?
He admitted it the next morning, yes.
Sure. When you went over to the house, was the defendant with you?
Yes, he was.
All right. You only were allowed to go in and get the things that he said that you asked for, that he said, okay, go get those things, right?
Correct.
And did you know that there was a skull of a person that he had killed in that apartment?
No.
Did he appear nervous at any time while he was standing there while you were going about the business of picking up the items that have now been marked and received in the evidence?
Yes.
Did you know, or did you ask him the source of his nervousness?
No, under the circumstances, I think anyone would be nervous.
Sure. So you had no reason to believe that his nervousness was because he was concerned that you might unravel a skull, and if you had, there would have been an entirely different kind of investigation, right?
Correct.
All right, just so it's clear, Lieutenant, it is my belief that you did exactly what the law allowed you to do, because that's all you could do is pick up those things that he gave you permission to pick up, correct?
Correct.
Thanks.
Well, the defendant appeared to be cooperative. He never told you that he had a skull there, did he?
No, he did not.
And with respect to his claim that it was inadvertent or by accident that the young man was drugged, to your knowledge, did he ever change that claim?
No, in my opinion, he was attempting to legitimize the situation.
Thank you.
Well, with all due respect, he wasn't legitimizing the situation when he admitted to touching a 13-year-old boy, was he?
He never admitted to touching him, his penis.
Well, no, but I mean, he certainly admitted to taking the boy up and taking pictures of him.
Correct.
He allowed you to pick up the pictures.
Yes.
Okay. That certainly was no question in your mind that he enticed a child into his apartment for immoral purposes when he told you that he brought him up there to take pictures of him in a semi-unclothed away. He was admitting that, wasn't he?
Correct. I was referring to the drug ingestion.
Oh, no. I understand. Okay, thank you.
So the record is clear. Did he ever confess to you that he had touched the boy's penis?
No, he denied that.
Thank you.
We have to ask this question. Did he plead guilty to the charge?
Yes, he did.
Okay, so he may not have admitted it to you, but he pled guilty to the charge.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Is that it? Okay.
I didn't think it was it. I thought they were going to come back again. Lord.
You may need 5 minutes.
About 10 minutes left here, ladies and gentlemen. Here on Murder Church. Winding her down. What an awesome day, though, man. The best day. I think, actually, in terms of just how awesome it's been. Everyone's been amazing. 78 likes. Hell yeah. You guys are the best. Crazy. Hilarious. Keeping me fucking rolling. Today's what's been happening. Good Lord, the chat's been fucking hilarious. Just like Austin said, the best. My favorite part about J-Bo Nation, J-Buzz Nation are the inside jokes, man. So many. So fun.
Spelling your last name, please.
Gary Temp, T-E-M-P.
Are you a City of Milwaukee police officer?
Yes, sir, I am.
And for how long have you served in that role?
12 years, sir.
Were you so employed on September 26, 1988?
Yes, sir, I was.
Were you working in a patrol car in the second shift?
Yes, sir, I was.
And what hours is that?
That would have been from 3:30 p.m. till 11:30 p.m.
Your testimony will involve a juvenile. We have referred to that juvenile as SS in these proceedings. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Did there come a time that you were dispatched to the residence of SS?
Yes, sir, did.
And was that within your patrol district?
Yes, sir, it was.
And would you describe the area of your patrol district on September 26, 1988?
At that time, I was assigned to Squad 30, which at the time was bounded by North 16th Street to North 35th Street, the Valley up to State Street. That was the boundaries of the squad area.
You were dispatched to the
Hope 8 Fear. Gifting out a membership. Who's going to get it? First of all, thank you, Hope 8 Fear, for gifting that out. Appreciate that. And who's going to get that bad boy? Nina Marquez. Welcome to being a new Publicly Buzzed member. Amazing. Welcome. Appreciate that. Thank you, Hope 8 Fear. Boom. Show that bad boy off one more time. Bam. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the cult.
Residence of that particular juvenile SS, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
You had conversations with that juvenile, and then with him you went to an apartment building near 24th and Wells, is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
You were undertaking to ascertain who it was that had induced him to come into an apartment?
Yeah, this guy's eyes, there is something about it. I've saw multiple comments in the chat. I've seen that he has crazy eyes. I've seen that he looks like he's soft. I'm not sure either. I'm not.
Posed for pictures and had fondled him. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And from which apparently he had received some.
I'm getting more of a gentle vibe.
Caused him to be in a drug condition.
That's correct, sir.
Right, I'm
boom
for the jury. Understand? I'm short-circuiting what that they've already heard basic contents of that. You went to that apartment building with him, determined in which apartment that had transpired, talked with the manager of that apartment building, and secured the name of the resident of the particular apartment that the juvenile pointed out to you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, I did.
You then took the juvenile down to the police headquarters, the vice room, where he had some discussion with another officer. Is that correct?
Yes, with, at the time, Detective Schaefer.
Thereafter, did you go with Detective Schaefer, or at least meet Detective Schaefer, at a near West Side chocolate factory?
Yes, sir, I did.
And was the purpose to arrest Mr. Dahmer?
Yes, it was.
And were you there when he was arrested?
Yes, I was.
After that arrest, he was taken down to the street, and a wagon conveyed him to the police administration building. Is that true?
That's correct, sir.
Did you later come into contact? Now that we're now after your shift hours, we're over into September 27, 1988. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Did you go with now Lieutenant Schaefer, to the dwelling on North 24th Street that you had already ascertained was Jeffrey Dahmer's dwelling?
Yes, I did.
And do you see?
You know what? That's actually the vibe I was probably seeing, Mandy, is he kind of is giving me a no disrespect. It's just what it is. Just this, all of this is giving me a Rex vibe.
Jeffrey Dahmer in court right now?
Yes, I do.
All right, was he present with you when you went to that dwelling with Schaefer and yourself?
Yes, he rode in the squad car with myself and my partner.
And your partner on that night was whom?
Robert Enters, E-N-T-E-R-S.
Were you present in the apartment when the search was conducted?
Yes, I was.
And certain items were recovered in that search or were identified by Mr. Dahmer and were recovered by the police department. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes, sir, it is.
I mean,
And
it's
did
the
you
same.
go take him back in your car back to the police administration building that morning?
Yes, I did.
Right. And did that conclude your contact with Mr. Dahmer on September 27th, 1988?
Other than once we arrived at the police department after Detective Schaefer questioned him, I walked him back up to the city jail on the 5th floor.
And for how many hours do you think it was that you had contact with Mr. Dahmer at that time?
Probably on that day I spent physically with him maybe an hour, hour and a half in that neighborhood.
Did there come a time that you saw him again, particularly on November 4, 1988?
Yes, sir, there did.
And under what circumstances was it that you came into contact with him on November 4, 1988?
Myself and Officer Enters were dispatched to North 22nd Street in West Wells to investigate a battery complaint.
And at what hour was that approximately?
It's approximately 5:40 p.m.
And that was again in your district? In
Yes,
your
that was
patrol district?
Yes, in the squad area.
All right. When you arrived at that, did you come into contact with Mr. Dahmer?
Yes, I did.
Where was he at that time?
At that location, there's an attorney's office, and he was sitting in the lobby of the attorney's office.
Right. And what, if anything, did you tell him? First of all, did you notice something about his person?
I noticed that he was bleeding from wounds on the head, and I also recognized him from the incident on September 26th and September 27th.
In other words, the incident involving SS, you appreciated this was the same man in whose arrest you had participated a month and a number of days earlier. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
All right. And what, if any, conversation did you have with Mr. Dahmer?
I asked him what had happened to him and called an ambulance for him because he was obviously in need of medical attention.
You could see him bleeding. Was he bleeding from the head?
Yes.
All right. And what did he tell you had happened?
Told me he was in the 2400 block of West Wells about 5 p.m. and somebody had beaten him up. He had no idea who, could give no description or anything like that.
Did he say whether he was on the street when that occurred or whether he was within a building?
He said that happened on the street.
And did you continue to talk with him as presumably the ambulance was coming?
Yes, I did.
And what, if anything, further did he say about it?
Oh, shit. Awesome. I love that. Tangled Crochet gifted out a membership, and I love it because new here and loving the chat. Little bit. Welcome. Love it. Let's go, baby. Crack some beers. Give you some love. Satisfying Pours, of course, going to be coming out at you. Love that. Hell yeah. I'm so glad that you got that. Enjoying it here. And yeah, you're going to get a month free on Tangled Crochet. Thank you again, Tangled Crochet. That's awesome. Keeping the love rolling, baby.
Well, I questioned that what had actually happened, and he became upset with me. And he said, what do you care what happened to me? You're just trying to incriminate me.
I like the answer at back report.
Answer, excuse me. Well, I questioned what had actually happened, and he became upset with me, and he said, what do you care what happened to me? You're just trying to incriminate me.
Did you continue to question him as to description of the individual, where he was when it happened, and questions of that sort?
I did, but it became a point where he was uncooperative, and he really didn't want to answer my questions or didn't seem to want to talk to me. So
did he give you any consistent identification of the individual who had attacked him?
No, he couldn't do that.
But did he continue to say that it had occurred on the street?
Yes.
And did the ambulance arrive?
Yes, it did.
And did he then leave in the ambulance?
Yes, he was conveyed to West Dallas Memorial Hospital.
Just so the jury understands, he had apparently gone from where he said he was assaulted into this lawyer's office to get help or to summon an ambulance or police. Is that so?
Yes, I believe so.
I want these questions, as I ask you the...
Uh-oh. CR going to hit us one more time, baby. $2. Passing the plate, baby. One more time. Thank you, CR, for always being amazing and coming through here and hitting us, baby. Love it. Oh, keep us jamming in here is what you're doing, CR. Love it. Thank you so much.
Questions. I want you to keep in mind all that you observed, both in the
Damn right.
early morning hours of September 27, 1988, and in the afternoon hours of November 4, 1988. Okay?
Yes, sir.
During either of those two events, did he appear to you to be suffering from any delusions?
No, he did not.
Any hallucinations?
No, sir.
Any incoherence?
No, sir.
Was he able to understand your questions and appear to be responsive to them?
Yes, he was.
Did he appear to be able to relate one thought to another?
Yes, he did.
Did he appear to you to be at all to having racing thoughts?
No, he did not.
Did he strike you to be in a stupor?
No.
Apparently he was in pain on the 4th, but that was not a stupor.
He wasn't in a stupor. He was in pain and physically in need of attention from a doctor, a medical doctor.
Did he appear to you at any time on either of those occasions to be out of touch with reality?
No, he did not.
Keeping in mind, then, all that you saw him, the observations you made of him on both those days, on his actions, on what he said, and in what he did you form an opinion as to his condition, his mental condition?
He appeared to be a normal person to me.
That's all.
Cross-examination.
Oh, is this just a couple of months after the sexual assault case?
It's approximately 5 to 6 weeks in that area, sir.
After that?
That the battery happened?
Yeah.
Yes.
And did he tell you how he was battered?
Told me he was beat up on the street by, he couldn't describe the persons or couldn't tell me exactly what happened.
And how far was he from the place where he had lived when you went over and searched the house with the Lieutenant Schaefer? How close were they in proximity to each other?
When the battery occurred?
Yes, sir.
Okay, the battery occurred in the 2400 block of West Wells. His old apartment was at 808 North 24th Street, so that's real close proximity.
A couple blocks?
Not even. The building's right on the northeast corner of 24th and Wells, so 24th to 25th would be 2400 West Wells.
What time of the day or night was it?
In November, it was approximately 5:40 that I got sent. He said it happened around 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock what, night? PM or AM?
PM.
Was he under the influence of an intoxicant?
He had been drinking.
Well, was he under the influence?
I don't think he was legally drunk. I didn't have him take a breathalyzer, but I don't think he was legally drunk.
And did you know at that time what the status of the sexual assault case was?
No, I didn't.
That's all.
No questions. You may step down, sir. This time we'll break for the evening. As we've previously discussed, we'll reconvene tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Court's in recess.
Court is in recess. Ladies and gentlemen, we will not be starting here next week. We'll probably get into this, but we're going to have to go back in time and do one more Dr. Fosdal video, the psychiatrist. We need to do part 6. Let's see how long that one is. An hour and 19 minutes. We are going to start off with another 1 hour and 19 minutes with Dr. Fosdal. I accidentally skipped that this morning. Thank you again, Megsy, for shouting that out. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, thank you all for hanging out this morning. This is, again, a record, I would say, yeah, a record murder church. You guys came out, showed out, made it amazing per usual. Yeah, keep your eyes on the channel this week. You never know what's going to be happening. Keep your eyes out for Tuesday, probably 10 p.m. I've been toying with that time, and I've even been thinking about toying with the day. I'm not 100% sure. Keep your eyes peeled, and, on all the socials, on Twitter, on the community, on YouTube, on Facebook if you follow there. But as of right now, we're going to keep Tuesdays rocking and rolling. Thanks everyone for hanging out. Appreciate it. Charlotte, all the way from the UK, all morning, all day for her from the future. A little bit for coming through here. Mandy for coming through here. Janet, Jamie, glad you're feeling better, brother. Austin, everybody, Megsy, love everybody. Hope Ain't Fear, everybody that has come through and made Murder Church an absolute success. As you head out the door, please hit the like. That helps us out here at Publicly Buzzed Live. And yeah, have a great week. Love you guys. I will see you on Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it. I'll probably be doing some tweeting. I'm going to be doing a little bit of work also, diving deeper into the BTK stuff that's happening right now. It's by the hour, almost by the day, new stuff is dropping. So yeah, also make sure you're following. Let me go ahead and drop it right here. Carrie Rawson on Twitter, because she is giving out insane amounts of information right now, basically putting together a little army to hunt down and find and search for any in a whole little vicinity, trying to, and this goes going way back in this BTK stuff into the early to mid 60s, all the way till when he was actually captured, the possibilities or the potential of him having other victims. So shit is getting real right now. But thank you all so much. Everyone is amazing. Crazy day here at Murder Church. Again, thank you all so much. Gonna do it. Gonna actually end this thing. I'm the worst at it. We'll see you next week. Boom.
See, we shoot them up bang over here. We not scared of they motherfucking ass.